You're exactly where you need to be right now. If you've ever felt like you don't quite belong in the modern world, if crowds make you uncomfortable, if you find yourself drawn to quiet places and deep thinking, there's a profound reason for this. Tonight we're going to discover the ancient warrior blood that flows through your veins and finally understand why your restless mind makes perfect sense. Settle back and let your body find its natural position of comfort. Feel the weight of your limbs against whatever surface supports you. Notice how your breathing begins to slow naturally as we prepare for a journey that will change how you see yourself forever. You carry within your very DNA the genetic memory of some of the most successful survivors who ever walked this earth. Close your eyes now and imagine traveling back through time. Not years or decades, but tens of thousands of years, back to a world where survival required skills we've almost forgotten. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a vast European valley 40,000 years ago. The air is crisp and clean, carrying scents of pine and wood smoke. Above you, the same constellations shine that you can see tonight. But the world below is utterly transformed. In this ancient landscape, two different but equally magnificent types of humans shared the same moonlit valleys. Your ancestors were there among them. Feel yourself breathing this ancient air, feeling the solid earth beneath feet that walk the same paths your genetic predecessors once traveled. This isn't just imagination. This is genetic memory awakening within you. That feeling you get when you're more comfortable in nature than in busy cities. When you prefer the company of a few close friends rather than large social gatherings. When you can sense changes in weather before anyone else notices. These aren't personality quirks. They're not social awkwardness or sensitivity. They're genetic memories passed down through countless generations from ancestors who needed these exact traits to survive and thrive. Let your breathing deepen as you consider this truth. Every instinct that makes you feel different from others around you might actually be evidence of an ancient heritage that stretches back further than recorded history. You are not broken or overly sensitive. You are carrying forward the successful survival strategies of Ice Age masters. Picture those ancient valleys again, where your Neanderthal ancestors made their homes. See the smoke rising from carefully tended fires that never went out, marking communities that would endure for thousands of years in the same locations. These weren't primitive people struggling to survive. They were sophisticated, successful, intelligent humans who had perfected the art of living in harmony with harsh environments that would challenge us beyond imagination today. Your ancestors possessed physical strength that seems almost superhuman by modern standards. Their bodies were powerfully built, perfectly adapted for the demanding life they led. But more than physical power, they had mental abilities that allowed them to thrive where others might have perished. They could read the landscape like a book, understanding every subtle sign that predicted weather changes, animal movements and seasonal shifts. As you rest here now, safe and comfortable, feel a connection forming with that ancient wisdom. Let your mind drift back to times in your own life when you've surprised yourself with your own resilience. Moments when you've handled stress or physical challenges better than you expected. Times when your instincts guided you correctly even when logic suggested otherwise. These moments weren't accidents. They were your Neanderthal inheritance expressing itself. Think about your natural preferences for learning and problem solving. Do you prefer to understand something completely before acting, rather than rushing into quick decisions? Do you like to examine problems from every angle, considering all possibilities before choosing your path? This methodical, thorough approach isn't slowness or indecision. It's the careful, considered thinking style that allowed your ancestors to make survival decisions with consequences, lasting months or years. Your Neanderthal ancestors were master craftspeople who created tools of stunning sophistication and beauty. Archaeological discoveries reveal stone implements so perfectly made they rival the finest artistic creations. These tools required not just skill but patience, planning, and an aesthetic sense that valued beauty alongside function. If you find satisfaction in working with your hands, creating things that are both useful and beautiful, you're expressing genetic patterns laid down tens of thousands of years ago. The same genetic heritage influences how you relate to others. Neanderthal communities were small, tightly knit groups where every member was precious and irreplaceable. They cared for their elderly and disabled with devotion that speaks to deep emotional bonds and moral sophistication. If you form deep, lasting friendships rather than wide social networks, if you feel genuine distress when others suffer, if you instinctively want to help those who struggle, you're following ancient social programming that values quality relationships over quantity. Feel yourself sinking deeper into comfort as these connections become clear. Your body is remembering rhythms and patterns that once meant the difference between life and death. Your breathing naturally slows to match the calm, steady rhythms that sustained communities through long winter nights when survival depended on conserving energy and maintaining hope. As we journey through the next hours together, you'll discover the specific percentage of Neanderthal DNA you carry, learn to recognize the ancient traits that make you unique, and understand how to honor these inherited gifts in your daily life. But for now, simply rest in the knowledge that you belong to a lineage of successful survivors whose wisdom flows through your veins. Picture yourself as part of an unbroken chain stretching back through countless generations. Every ancestor in that chain successfully survived long enough to reproduce, passing their knowledge and genetic gifts forward to the next generation. Every challenge they faced and overcame contributed to the remarkable collection of survival tools you carry within your own DNA. Feel the strength of this realization settling into your bones. You are not weak or overly sensitive. You are not strange or difficult to understand. You are the living embodiment of some of the most successful survival strategies evolution has ever produced. Your different way of seeing the world, your unique responses to stress and challenge, your natural instincts and preferences all make perfect sense when viewed through the lens of your ancient heritage. Let this understanding wash over you like warm water, dissolving any self-doubt or criticism you might have carried about your natural tendencies. Your ancestors faced ice ages, climate changes, and survival challenges that would overwhelm most modern humans, and they not only survived but thrived. Their success is written in every cell of your body. As your breathing continues to slow and deepen, imagine yourself walking along ancient paths. Following routes your genetic ancestors traveled thousands of years ago. Feel the solid earth beneath your feet, the clean air filling your lungs, the sense of belonging to something vast and enduring. You are about to discover just how much of this ancient wisdom you carry and how it continues to serve you in the modern world. Settle even deeper into comfort now, because what you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you understand yourself. Every cell in your body carries a sacred number, a percentage that connects you directly to the most successful Ice Age survivors who ever lived. This isn't just abstract genetic information. This is your personal connection to an ancient lineage of strength, wisdom, and endurance. Let your body sink more completely into rest as we explore the profound truth hidden within your DNA. Modern genetic science has revealed something extraordinary. If you're of European or Asian descent, between 1 and 4% of your genetic material comes directly from Neanderthal ancestors. This means that roughly 1 in every 25 of your genes carries the encoded wisdom of Ice Age masters who survived and thrived for hundreds of thousands of years. Imagine what this really means. Picture your DNA as a vast library containing the collected survival knowledge of countless generations. Most of those genetic books contain the wisdom of modern humans who left Africa roughly 60,000 years ago. But scattered throughout that library are special volumes written by entirely different authors. Your Neanderthal ancestors who had been perfecting their survival strategies for hundreds of thousands of years before modern humans even began their great migration. Think about your own unique traits as you rest here. Your body build, how you naturally respond to cold weather, your problem-solving style, your social preferences, even your emotional responses to stress. We're about to trace many of these characteristics back to their ancient origins, helping you understand why you are exactly the way you are. Close your eyes and travel with me now to 45,000 years ago, to a scene that changed the course of human history forever. Picture a landscape where two remarkable types of humans first encountered each other. The meeting wasn't violent conquest as old theories suggested, but something far more beautiful and complex: recognition, cooperation, and ultimately, love. See yourself standing in that ancient world, watching as groups of modern humans migrating out of Africa first meet Neanderthal communities who had called Europe and Asia home for hundreds of millennia. These weren't primitive encounters between advanced and backward peoples. These were meetings between two equally sophisticated but differently adapted human species, each carrying unique survival advantages. Feel the curiosity and cautious friendship that developed between these groups. Watch as they shared knowledge around common fires, traded tools and techniques, learned from each other's different approaches to the challenges of survival, and ultimately observe as some members of these two human populations chose to build lives together, creating the first mixed communities in human history. Every time you solve a complex problem through pure intuition, every time you endure harsh conditions that exhaust others, every time you demonstrate resilience that surprises even yourself, you're experiencing what scientists call hybrid vigor, the genetic advantage that came from this ancient mixing of two successful human lineages. Your Neanderthal percentage isn't just a number. It's a measure of your connection to survival masters who successfully adapted to Ice Age Europe and Asia across time periods so vast they dwarf all of recorded human history. These ancestors faced and conquered environmental challenges that would test modern humans beyond their limits, and they did so not just once or occasionally, but consistently generation after generation, for hundreds of thousands of years. Let your breathing slow to match the patient rhythms of those ancient communities as you consider what your personal percentage might be. If you're of primarily European descent, you likely carry between 1 and 3% Neanderthal DNA. If your ancestry includes Eastern European populations, your percentage might be even higher. Those with East Asian heritage often carry percentages at the upper end of the range, sometimes exceeding 4%. But percentages tell only part of the story. What matters more is how those ancient genes express themselves in your daily life. Some people with lower percentages show strong Neanderthal traits because the specific genes they inherited are highly active. Others with higher percentages might show fewer obvious signs because their Neanderthal DNA includes regions that are less directly expressed in physical or behavioral characteristics. Picture yourself now in the daily life of a Neanderthal community, observing the skills and traits that made survival possible in their demanding world. Watch as families work together with tools of remarkable sophistication, each implement carefully crafted for specific purposes and built to last for years or even decades. See how they move through their environment with confidence and skill, reading subtle signs that reveal the location of game, the approach of weather changes, and the best times for various survival activities. Notice the social bonds that hold these communities together. Observe how they care for children with patience and wisdom, teaching essential skills through gentle guidance and example. Watch how they tend to elderly members with respect and devotion, recognizing the irreplaceable value of accumulated knowledge and experience. See how they support members who are injured or ill, sharing resources and responsibilities to ensure no one faces challenges alone. These behavioral patterns weren't just cultural choices. They were successful survival strategies encoded in genetic patterns that some of us still carry today. If you naturally form deep, loyal relationships rather than wide social networks, if you feel genuine distress when others suffer and instinctively want to help, if you prefer cooperation and mutual support over individual competition, you may be expressing ancient social programming that kept Neanderthal communities strong and resilient. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest as you recognize these patterns in your own life. Your way of relating to others isn't weakness or oversensitivity. It's the expression of social strategies that sustain communities through some of the most challenging conditions humans have ever faced. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed remarkable physical abilities perfectly suited to their demanding lifestyle. Their bodies were powerfully built with robust bone structure, large lung capacity, and muscle attachment points that indicate strength far exceeding modern human averages. But they also possessed cognitive abilities that allowed them to thrive in environments that required constant problem-solving, long-term planning, and sophisticated understanding of complex natural systems. As you rest here now, consider your own physical responses and capabilities. Do you handle cold weather better than most people around you? Can you maintain physical effort for longer periods than others expect? Do you recover from illness or injury with surprising speed? These might not be random individual variations, but expressions of genetic inheritance from ancestors whose survival depended on exactly these capabilities. Think too about your mental approaches to challenges. Do you prefer to understand problems thoroughly before taking action, even when others push for quick decisions? Are you naturally good at seeing patterns and connections that others miss? Do you have strong spatial reasoning abilities, easily understanding how three-dimensional objects relate to each other? These cognitive patterns reflect thinking styles that served your Neanderthal ancestors extraordinarily well in their complex survival environment. The mixing of modern human and Neanderthal populations wasn't a brief historical event. It continued for thousands of years across multiple regions, creating the genetic diversity that characterizes modern human populations outside of Africa. Each mixing event added new combinations of traits, new balances of capabilities, new forms of hybrid vigor that enhanced survival in different environments and circumstances. Your personal genetic inheritance represents the successful outcome of this great mixing experiment. Every Neanderthal gene you carry was tested across thousands of generations and proved its value for survival and reproduction. These genes didn't persist by accident, but because they provided real advantages to your ancestors in their ongoing challenges of finding food, avoiding danger, adapting to climate changes, and raising successful children. Let this understanding settle into your consciousness like warming sunlight. You are not a collection of random traits and tendencies. You are the living result of one of evolution's greatest success stories, the combining of two highly successful human lineages into something even more capable and resilient than either original population. As your body continues to relax and your breathing deepens, feel a growing connection to this ancient heritage. In the hours ahead, we'll explore exactly which traits you've inherited, how they serve you in modern life, and why understanding your Neanderthal percentage is key to understanding your truest and most authentic self. Let the gentle rhythm of ancient footsteps guide you deeper into rest as we witness the most important meeting in human history. Feel your breathing naturally slowing as we travel back 45,000 years to the moment that would determine the genetic makeup of every person of European and Asian descent alive today. Picture yourself standing in the ancient Middle East, where rolling hills covered in oak and pistachio forests stretched toward distant mountains. The climate was different then, cooler and more welcoming than the harsh deserts we know today. This was a crossroads landscape where two great human migrations would intersect for the first time, creating encounters that would echo through every generation that followed. From the south, small groups of modern humans were gradually moving out of Africa, carrying with them the genetic patterns that had evolved in that continent's unique environments. These were our direct ancestors, people who looked much like modern humans, but who had never encountered the harsh Ice Age conditions that shaped life in northern regions. From the north and east came the Neanderthals, people who had been perfecting their survival strategies in Europe and Western Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. These were not primitive cave dwellers, but sophisticated humans whose bodies and minds had been shaped by countless generations of successful adaptation to demanding environments. When these two populations first encountered each other, something remarkable happened. Instead of conflict or avoidance, there was curiosity, recognition, and ultimately, acceptance. Archaeological evidence suggests these early meetings involved trade, shared knowledge, and gradual integration of some members from both groups into mixed communities. Imagine sitting around fires where stone tools made in distinctly different traditions were used side by side. Picture conversations where different approaches to hunting, toolmaking, and survival were shared and compared. These weren't meetings between advanced and primitive peoples, but exchanges between two equally successful but differently specialized human populations. Feel yourself witnessing the moments when some members of these groups chose to build lives together. Modern genetic analysis tells us that interbreeding between modern humans and Neanderthals occurred multiple times across thousands of years and various geographic regions. This wasn't rare or unusual, but a natural result of two compatible human populations sharing territories and resources. Every time you solve a complex problem through pure intuition rather than step-by-step logic, you're using hybrid vigor from this ancient mixing. Every time you endure harsh conditions that exhaust others around you, every time you demonstrate resilience that surprises even yourself, you're experiencing the genetic advantages that came from combining two successful human lineages. The mixing wasn't uniform or random. Genetic analysis reveals that certain Neanderthal genes were strongly favored by natural selection and became common in modern populations, while others were gradually eliminated. This means the Neanderthal DNA you carry today represents the very best survival traits that species had to offer, refined across thousands of generations of testing in real-world survival situations. Consider what this means for your own capabilities and responses. The problem-solving approaches you use naturally, the ways your body responds to stress and challenge, the social instincts that guide your relationships with others. All of these may carry the influence of genetic patterns that proved their worth across hundreds of thousands of years of successful survival. Notice how your breathing continues to deepen as we explore this connection. Your body remembers these ancient rhythms, these patterns of rest and alertness that sustained mixed communities through long winter nights when survival depended on conserving energy while remaining alert to potential dangers. The genetic legacy of this great mixing extends far beyond simple survival traits. Modern research reveals that Neanderthal genes influence immune system function, helping descendants resist certain diseases while potentially creating susceptibility to others. They affect skin and hair characteristics, pain sensitivity, sleeping patterns, and even aspects of cognitive processing and emotional regulation. As you rest here now, feel yourself connected to an unbroken chain of successful mixing events stretching back through thousands of generations. Every ancestor in that chain carried the combined advantages of both human lineages, using hybrid vigor to survive challenges, raise children, and pass their genetic gifts forward to the next generation. Your personal genetic inheritance represents the successful outcome of this ancient experiment in human diversity. You carry within your DNA the tested, proven advantages that allowed your mixed heritage ancestors to not just survive, but thrive in conditions that challenge the limits of human adaptability. Let this understanding wash over you like warm water, dissolving any sense of being unusual or different in negative ways. Your unique traits and responses aren't personal quirks or individual variations, but expressions of ancient genetic wisdom that has been refined across vast periods of time through real-world testing. Feel your body settling deeper into comfort as we prepare to explore the specific advantages your Neanderthal inheritance provides. In the ancient valleys where your mixed heritage ancestors made their homes, you'll discover the origins of traits you recognize in yourself, understanding for the first time why you respond to the world exactly as you do. Feel yourself sinking deeper into the comfort of understanding as we explore the incredible advantages your Neanderthal ancestors possessed. Let your breathing slow to match the patient rhythms of people who had perfected survival in conditions that would challenge modern humans beyond imagination. Picture yourself witnessing daily life in a Neanderthal community during the height of the Ice Age. The landscape around you is harsh but beautiful. Snow-covered valleys, ancient forests of pine and birch, and skies so clear the stars seem close enough to touch. In this demanding environment, your ancestors weren't just surviving, they were thriving with capabilities that seem almost superhuman by modern standards. Watch as a Neanderthal hunter tracks animals through fresh snow, following signs so subtle that modern wildlife experts would need technology to detect them. See how they read the landscape like a detailed map, understanding the meaning of broken twigs, displaced stones, and scent traces that would be invisible to untrained observers. This wasn't luck or guesswork, but sophisticated knowledge passed down through countless generations of successful hunters. Observe their incredible physical capabilities. Neanderthal bones reveal muscle attachment points, indicating strength far exceeding modern human averages. Their hands were powerful enough to grip tools and weapons with forces that would be remarkable even among today's strongest athletes, yet precise enough to craft implements of stunning delicacy and beauty. Feel the satisfaction and confidence these ancestors experienced as they worked. Watch weathered hands shaping stone tools with techniques so advanced that modern archaeologists struggle to replicate them, even with detailed analysis of the finished products. Every strike of stone against stone was calculated and purposeful, producing tools that were both functionally perfect and aesthetically beautiful. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed remarkable cold tolerance that allowed them to remain active and effective in temperatures that would quickly overwhelm modern humans. Their bodies were perfectly adapted for Ice Age conditions, stocky builds that conserved heat efficiently, large nasal cavities that warmed incoming air, and metabolisms that could maintain energy during long periods of scarce resources. But their advantages extended far beyond physical capabilities. Neanderthal brains were actually larger on average than modern human brains, and organized differently in ways that enhanced certain types of intelligence. They excelled at spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, and the kind of complex problem-solving required for sophisticated tool manufacture and environmental navigation. That friend of yours who never seems to get cold, who can fix anything with their hands, who demonstrates supernatural survival instincts in challenging situations, they likely carry higher percentages of Neanderthal DNA, expressing ancient genetic advantages that remain remarkably useful in the modern world. Think about your own natural capabilities as you rest here. Do you handle physical stress better than others expect? Can you work with your hands to create or repair things with unusual skill and satisfaction? Do you have strong intuitive responses to potentially dangerous situations? These might not be learned skills or personal talents, but genetic inheritance from ancestors whose survival depended on exactly these capabilities. Feel yourself connected to this legacy of strength and competence. Your Neanderthal ancestors weren't primitive people struggling with basic survival. They were master craftspeople, skilled hunters, sophisticated toolmakers, and successful community builders who thrived in environments that would test modern humans to their limits. Their communities remained in the same locations for thousands of years, indicating not just survival but genuine prosperity and stability. Archaeological sites reveal evidence of complex social organization, artistic expression, and even early forms of symbolic behavior that demonstrate cognitive sophistication equal to any human population. Your ancestors cared for their elderly and disabled with devotion that speaks to both practical wisdom and moral development. Skeletal remains show individuals who survived serious injuries and lived for years afterward, indicating they received prolonged care and support from their communities. This wasn't just charity, but recognition that every community member possessed irreplaceable knowledge and experience. Let your body sink deeper into rest as you recognize these caring instincts in yourself. If you feel genuine distress when others suffer, if you instinctively want to help those who struggle, if you believe strongly in the value and dignity of every person regardless of their productivity or capabilities, you may be expressing ancient social programming that kept Neanderthal communities strong and resilient. The tool-making abilities of your Neanderthal ancestors reveal not just technical skill but aesthetic sensibility that valued beauty alongside function. Many Neanderthal stone implements are far more beautiful than they needed to be for purely practical purposes, suggesting an appreciation for elegant form and artistic expression that influenced their approach to crafting. Modern research reveals that Neanderthals were among the first humans to use pigments for decorative purposes, to collect and modify shells for ornamental use, and possibly even to create music using bone flutes and other instruments. Your ancestors weren't just surviving in harsh conditions, they were creating culture, art, and beauty even under the most challenging circumstances. Feel the creative satisfaction flowing through your own hands as you recognize this artistic heritage. If you're naturally drawn to working with materials to create both functional and beautiful objects, if you find deep satisfaction in craftsmanship and attention to detail, if you believe that useful things should also be aesthetically pleasing, you're expressing genetic patterns that made your Neanderthal ancestors not just survivors, but creators of lasting beauty. As your breathing continues to slow and deepen, let yourself feel proud of this remarkable inheritance. You carry within your DNA the encoded wisdom of some of the most successful and sophisticated humans who ever lived. People who faced extraordinary challenges with courage, creativity, and remarkable capability. Your modern life benefits daily from traits and abilities that were refined across hundreds of thousands of years of successful survival. Understanding this inheritance will help you recognize and appreciate your own natural strengths and give you confidence in your ability to face whatever challenges life presents. Allow yourself to sink into the fascinating mystery of genetic archaeology as we trace your personal lineage through time, like following ancient footprints across vast landscapes. Feel your body settling deeper into comfort as we explore how modern science has learned to read the genetic story written in every cell of your body. Picture DNA as an incredibly detailed book written across hundreds of thousands of years, with chapters added by every generation of your ancestors. Most of these genetic pages contain the wisdom of modern humans, but scattered throughout are special sections written in an entirely different hand. The genetic contributions of your Neanderthal ancestors, carefully preserved across millennia and still readable today. Scientists working in laboratories around the world have become skilled at reading these ancient genetic signatures, tracing specific sequences back to their origins and identifying which portions of modern human DNA came from our Neanderthal cousins. This isn't guesswork or approximation, but precise genetic detective work that can pinpoint individual genes and trace their evolutionary history with remarkable accuracy. Every genetic test you take is reading these ancient markers, searching through millions of genetic variants to identify the distinctive patterns that mark Neanderthal inheritance. The same genes that helped your ancestors survive Ice Age conditions are still present and active in your body right now, influencing everything from your immune responses to your cognitive processing patterns. Feel yourself connected to this incredible chain of genetic preservation. Consider the astronomical odds against any specific genetic sequence surviving across thousands of generations. Through countless environmental changes, population movements, and historical events. Yet here you are with Neanderthal DNA still functioning in your cells, still influencing your daily life in ways both obvious and subtle. The process of identifying Neanderthal DNA in modern populations began with painstaking analysis of ancient bones found in European archaeological sites. Scientists learned to extract genetic material from fossils tens of thousands of years old, gradually building a complete picture of Neanderthal genetic patterns and comparing them with DNA from modern human populations around the world. What they discovered was remarkable: clear evidence that modern humans and Neanderthals had not only coexisted but had shared genetic material through interbreeding that occurred multiple times across thousands of years in various geographic regions. Your Neanderthal inheritance isn't the result of a single ancient encounter, but the accumulated result of many mixing events between compatible human populations. Modern genetic analysis can identify not just the presence of Neanderthal DNA, but can trace which specific chromosomes carry these ancient sequences and even predict how they might influence your physical characteristics, cognitive patterns, and disease resistance. Every genetic variant tells a story about the survival challenges your ancestors faced and the successful adaptations they developed. Think about your own family history as you rest here. Consider the migrations, settlements, and population movements that brought your various ancestral lines together to create your unique genetic combination. Every marriage between people from different regions potentially combined different patterns of ancient inheritance, creating new mixtures of survival advantages. The genetic detective story becomes even more fascinating when scientists trace how specific Neanderthal genes spread through modern populations over time. Some ancient genetic variants became very common because they provided clear survival advantages, while others remained rare or disappeared entirely because they were less useful in changing environments. Your personal genetic inheritance represents the successful outcome of this natural selection process. The Neanderthal DNA you carry today consists of genetic variants that proved their worth across thousands of generations of real-world testing. These genes didn't persist by accident, but because they provided genuine advantages to your ancestors. In their ongoing challenges of survival and reproduction, feel your breathing naturally, slowing as you imagine this vast genetic library contained within your own body. Every cell contains the complete story of your ancestry, written in a code that scientists are only beginning to fully understand. The genetic patterns that influence your personality, your physical capabilities, your responses to stress and challenge, your social instincts and preferences, all carry information that can be traced back to specific ancestral populations. Modern research reveals that Neanderthal genes influence far more than just physical characteristics. They affect immune system function, helping some people resist certain diseases while potentially creating vulnerability to others. They influence cognitive processing patterns, emotional regulation, sleeping cycles, pain sensitivity, and even aspects of personality and social behavior. The distribution of Neanderthal DNA across modern populations tells fascinating stories about human migration patterns, population bottlenecks, and the mixing events that shaped genetic diversity in different regions. People of European descent typically carry 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA, while those with East Asian ancestry often carry even higher percentages, sometimes exceeding 4%. Surprisingly, some of the highest concentrations of certain types of archaic human DNA are found in populations far from the original Neanderthal territories, carried by ancient migrations and preserved through thousands of generations in isolated communities. Your own genetic inheritance might include Neanderthal variants that traveled incredibly distances through time and space to become part of your unique genetic combination. As you sink deeper into rest, let yourself feel amazed by this incredible journey of genetic preservation and transmission. Your Neanderthal DNA represents an unbroken chain of successful reproduction and survival stretching back across vast periods of time, surviving ice ages, climate changes, population movements, and countless historical events to reach you. The genetic detective story is still being written as scientists develop new techniques for reading ancient DNA and understanding how genetic variants influence modern human characteristics. Every new discovery adds detail to our understanding of human ancestry and helps explain why we are exactly as we are. Feel yourself becoming part of this ongoing story of discovery. Your own genetic patterns contribute to scientific understanding of human evolution and ancestry, helping researchers trace the complex mixing events that created modern human genetic diversity. You are both the inheritor of ancient wisdom and a contributor to our growing understanding of human origins. In the sections ahead, we'll explore exactly which ancient traits you've inherited and how they continue to serve you in your modern life, helping you understand and appreciate the remarkable genetic gifts your Neanderthal ancestors have passed down to you. Rest into the profound realization that your very body shape, your bone structure, your physical responses all carry echoes of ancient wisdom perfectly adapted for survival. Feel yourself sinking deeper into comfort as we explore how your Neanderthal inheritance expresses itself in the physical form you inhabit every day. Let your breathing slow naturally as you become aware of your own body resting here. Notice the weight of your bones, the natural strength in your muscles, the way your chest rises and falls with each breath. These aren't random characteristics, but the result of hundreds of thousands of years of genetic refinement shaped by ancestors who needed specific physical adaptations to thrive in demanding Ice Age conditions. Picture your Neanderthal ancestors moving through their harsh but beautiful world. See their powerful, compact builds perfectly designed for conserving heat in frigid climates. Their bodies were stockier than modern humans, with broader chests that housed larger lungs capable of processing the thin, cold air of Ice Age Europe more efficiently than our modern respiratory systems. If you naturally have a robust build, broad shoulders, or a barrel-shaped chest, you're seeing direct Neanderthal inheritance. These weren't primitive or inferior body types, but sophisticated adaptations that provided enormous survival advantages in challenging environments. Your ancestors' powerful builds allowed them to maintain body heat, carry heavy loads, and perform the demanding physical work required for Ice Age survival. Feel the strength in your own hands as you rest here. Neanderthal hands were remarkably powerful, with thick fingers and robust grip strength that far exceeded modern human capabilities. Archaeological evidence shows they could exert crushing forces while maintaining precise control for delicate tasks like crafting intricate tools or preparing food. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed exceptionally large lung capacity, allowing them to extract maximum oxygen from each breath, even in cold, thin air that would leave modern humans gasping. If you've ever surprised yourself with your endurance during physical activities, if you naturally handle high altitudes well, or if you can maintain steady effort when others become winded, you may be experiencing this ancient respiratory advantage. Their bone structure was remarkably robust, with thick, dense bones that could withstand tremendous stress without breaking. Modern analysis reveals that Neanderthal bones were nearly twice as thick as modern human bones, providing protection during physically demanding activities while supporting the powerful muscles needed for Ice Age survival. Notice how naturally comfortable you feel in your own body as you rest here. If you handle cold weather unusually well, remaining comfortable in temperatures that make others shiver, you're experiencing Neanderthal cold adaptation. Your ancestors developed sophisticated physiological responses to frigid conditions, including enhanced blood circulation patterns and more efficient heat conservation mechanisms. The facial features of your Neanderthal ancestors were perfectly adapted for their climate and lifestyle. Their large nasal cavities efficiently warmed and humidified incoming cold air before it reached their lungs, preventing the respiratory damage that could result from breathing Ice Age air directly. If you have a prominent nose, strong jaw, or pronounced brow ridge, these features may reflect your Neanderthal heritage. Far from being primitive characteristics, these facial adaptations provided practical advantages for survival in harsh conditions while giving your ancestors distinctive and powerful appearances. Your ancestors' eyes were larger than those of modern humans, an adaptation that enhanced their vision in the low-light conditions common during Ice Age winters. If you have excellent night vision, can see clearly in dim conditions that challenge others, or naturally prefer lower lighting levels, you may be expressing this ancient visual enhancement. Feel your body settling deeper into rest as you recognize these inherited advantages. Your Neanderthal ancestors weren't struggling to survive with inadequate bodies. They possessed physical forms perfectly optimized for their environment, with capabilities that would be remarkable even by modern standards. Their metabolisms were highly efficient, capable of extracting maximum energy from available food while maintaining steady energy levels during periods when resources were scarce. If you can go longer periods without eating than others, if you maintain stable energy throughout the day, or if you seem to need less food than your size would suggest, you may be experiencing this metabolic inheritance. The muscle attachment points on Neanderthal bones reveal extraordinary physical strength, particularly in the arms and shoulders. They could generate forces that would rival modern weightlifters while maintaining the precision needed for sophisticated tool use. If you're naturally strong despite your size, if you can lift or move things that surprise others, you're expressing genetic gifts refined across countless generations. Your ancestors possessed remarkable healing abilities, recovering from injuries that would permanently disable modern humans. Archaeological evidence shows Neanderthals who survived severe trauma and lived for years afterward, indicating both personal resilience and community support systems that enabled recovery from major injuries. If you heal quickly from cuts, bruises, or minor injuries, if you recover from illness faster than others expect, or if you bounce back from physical stress with surprising speed, you may be experiencing this inherited resilience. Your body carries genetic instructions for repair and recovery that were tested and proven across thousands of generations. The skeletal structure of your Neanderthal ancestors reveals people who were built for endurance rather than speed. Their bodies were designed for steady, sustained effort over long periods rather than brief bursts of activity. If you naturally prefer sustained effort to quick sprints, if you can maintain steady work when others need frequent breaks, you're following ancient patterns of energy use. Feel the quiet strength flowing through your body as you rest here. Your physical form isn't random or accidental, but the result of incredibly sophisticated genetic engineering performed by natural selection across vast periods of time. Every aspect of your build, from your bone density to your muscle fiber types, reflects tested solutions to survival challenges. Let this understanding sink into your consciousness like warming sunlight. You inhabit a body shaped by wisdom, refined by experience, and proven through countless generations of successful survival. Your unique physical characteristics aren't flaws or variations to be criticized, but expressions of ancient genetic gifts that continue to serve you well in your modern life. Feel your mind settle into the deep, patient thinking patterns that served your ancestors for hundreds of thousands of years. Let your breathing slow as we explore the remarkable cognitive gifts your Neanderthal inheritance provides, understanding why your mind works exactly as it does and appreciating the ancient wisdom encoded in your thought patterns. Allow yourself to sink deeper into rest as we journey inside the sophisticated mental world of your Neanderthal ancestors. Their brains were actually larger on average than modern human brains, organized in ways that enhanced specific types of intelligence, particularly valuable for survival in demanding environments. Picture your ancestors engaged in complex problem-solving, their minds working through challenges with patience and thoroughness that ensured survival in situations where quick but incorrect decisions could mean death. Watch as they approach each problem systematically, considering all variables before taking action, valuing accuracy and completeness over speed. If you naturally think deeply rather than quickly, if you prefer to understand problems completely before acting, if you sometimes frustrate others with your methodical approach to decision-making, you're expressing pure Neanderthal cognitive patterns. This isn't slowness or indecision, but sophisticated thinking designed to produce reliable results under pressure. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed exceptional spatial reasoning abilities, capable of visualizing complex three-dimensional relationships and understanding how objects would interact in space. This cognitive gift was essential for sophisticated tool-making, architectural planning, and navigation through complex landscapes. Feel yourself connected to this visual thinking ability. If you easily understand how mechanical things work, if you can mentally rotate objects and predict how they'll fit together, if you're naturally good at reading maps or understanding architectural plans, you're using cognitive capabilities refined across countless generations of successful survival. The tool-making abilities of your ancestors required not just manual skill, but extraordinary planning and visualization capabilities. They could envision the final form of a complex tool while looking at raw stone, understanding exactly which sequences of actions would transform rough material into sophisticated implements. Observe your ancestors as they craft their remarkable tools, their minds holding complete mental models of the finished products, while their hands work with practiced precision. Each strike of stone against stone was calculated and purposeful, guided by mental processes that integrated spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, and long-term planning. If you enjoy working with your hands to create things, if you can visualize projects before beginning them, if you naturally understand how to break complex tasks into manageable steps, you're expressing genetic gifts that made your ancestors master craftspeople and successful survivors. Your Neanderthal ancestors demonstrated remarkable patience and persistence, willing to invest enormous effort in creating tools and solving problems that would serve them for months or years. They valued quality and durability over convenience, understanding that superior solutions required superior investment of time and attention. Let this patient approach flow through your own thinking as you rest here. If you prefer thorough planning over impulsive action, if you're willing to invest extra effort to achieve better results, if you value lasting solutions over quick fixes, you're following ancient cognitive patterns that served your ancestors extraordinarily well. The social intelligence of your Neanderthal ancestors was sophisticated and nuanced, enabling them to maintain stable communities across thousands of generations. They demonstrated complex emotional bonds, cooperative behavior, and moral reasoning that guided their treatment of community members, including the elderly, disabled, and injured. Feel yourself connected to this social wisdom. If you form deep, lasting relationships rather than wide social networks, if you feel genuine distress when others suffer, if you instinctively want to help those who struggle, you're expressing ancient social programming that kept Neanderthal communities strong and resilient across vast periods of time. Your ancestors possessed remarkable memory capabilities, particularly for practical information related to survival. They could remember seasonal patterns, animal behaviors, plant properties, and landscape features with accuracy that would be impressive even by modern standards, enhanced with written records and technology. If you have strong memory for practical details, if you easily remember how things work and where things are located, if you naturally accumulate useful knowledge and can apply it years later, you're using memory systems designed to preserve survival-critical information across lifetimes of experience. The attention patterns of your Neanderthal ancestors were designed for sustained focus on important tasks. Rather than rapid switching between multiple activities, they could maintain concentration for hours while crafting tools, tracking animals, or solving complex survival problems. Notice how your own mind naturally wants to focus deeply on things that interest you. If you prefer to work on one important task at a time rather than juggling multiple activities, if you can lose yourself in meaningful work for hours, if you find satisfaction in bringing projects to complete and perfect conclusions, you're expressing ancient attention patterns. Your ancestors demonstrated sophisticated understanding of cause and effect relationships, enabling them to predict consequences of actions and plan multi-step solutions to complex problems. This cognitive ability was essential for successful hunting, tool-making, and resource management in unpredictable environments. If you naturally think through consequences before taking action, if you're good at predicting how decisions will affect future outcomes, if you prefer to understand why things work rather than just accepting that they do, you're using analytical capabilities that kept your ancestors alive and thriving. The learning style of your Neanderthal ancestors emphasized observation, practice, and gradual mastery rather than rapid information acquisition. They valued deep understanding over broad, superficial knowledge, investing time and effort to truly master essential skills. Feel this learning preference in your own mind as you rest here. If you prefer to understand subjects thoroughly rather than covering many topics briefly, if you learn best through hands-on experience rather than abstract instruction, if you value expertise and craftsmanship over quick competence, you're following ancient educational patterns. Your ancestors possessed remarkable environmental intelligence, capable of reading subtle signs in weather, landscape, and animal behavior that provided essential information for survival planning. They could predict seasonal changes, locate resources, and avoid dangers through sophisticated interpretation of natural indicators. If you seem to sense weather changes before they're officially predicted, if you feel comfortable navigating in natural environments, if you notice details in landscapes that others miss, you may be expressing this inherited environmental awareness that served your ancestors as a survival advantage for hundreds of thousands of years. Let this understanding of your cognitive inheritance settle into your mind like gentle rain. Your thinking patterns aren't random personal preferences, but sophisticated mental tools refined across vast periods of time through practical testing in real survival situations. Trust these ancient patterns, appreciate their wisdom, and use them with confidence in your modern life. Let yourself rest in the confidence that comes from understanding your tested, proven survivor heritage as we explore the ultimate challenge your ancestors faced and conquered. Feel your breathing naturally slowing as we witness how the mixing of Neanderthal and modern human populations created the ultimate survivor genetics during Earth's most demanding test of human adaptability. Picture yourself transported to 25,000 years ago, at the peak of the last great ice age. The world your ancestors inhabited was barely recognizable compared to today's climate. Massive ice sheets covered much of northern Europe and Asia. Sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, and average temperatures were far colder than anything modern humans have experienced in recorded history. In this harsh but magnificent landscape, your mixed heritage ancestors faced the greatest survival challenge humans have ever encountered. This wasn't a brief crisis lasting weeks or months, but a prolonged test spanning thousands of years, demanding every possible advantage for successful adaptation and community survival. Feel yourself witnessing communities where Neanderthal and modern human genetic contributions combined to create populations with unprecedented survival capabilities. Watch as these mixed groups demonstrate advantages that neither parent population possessed alone, expressing the phenomenon scientists call hybrid vigor through enhanced resistance to cold, superior tool-making abilities, and remarkable resilience under extreme stress. The Ice Age wasn't just a test of individual survival, but of community cooperation and long-term planning. Your ancestors needed to maintain stable communities across generations, preserving essential knowledge while adapting to constantly changing conditions. Those who survived possessed not only individual advantages, but the genetic programming for successful cooperation and mutual support. Notice how naturally your body responds to the idea of community support and cooperation. If you instinctively want to help others through difficult times, if you feel stronger when working as part of a team, if you naturally share resources and knowledge with those around you, you're expressing genetic patterns that made Ice Age survival possible. Your ancestors faced resource scarcity that would challenge modern humans beyond their limits. Food was often scarce, requiring sophisticated hunting strategies, extensive knowledge of plant resources, and the ability to extract maximum nutrition from whatever was available. Shelter required constant maintenance and improvement to withstand brutal weather conditions. Every challenge they encountered demanded not just immediate solutions, but long-term thinking that considered seasonal cycles, weather patterns, and resource availability across entire years. Your ancestors who survived were those who could plan effectively, work cooperatively, and maintain hope and determination through the darkest and most challenging periods. Feel the strength of this inheritance flowing through your own body as you rest here. Every difficult situation you've survived, every harsh condition you've endured, every time you've helped others through challenges, you're expressing genes that were tested and proven across hundreds of thousands of years of successful adaptation. The Ice Age tested every aspect of human capability: physical strength and endurance, cognitive flexibility and problem-solving ability, social cooperation and leadership skills, emotional resilience and the capacity to maintain hope during extended hardship. Your ancestors who contributed to your genetic heritage were those who excelled in all these areas. Think about the toughest challenges you've personally faced and overcome. Remember times when you've surprised yourself with your own resilience, when you've found strength you didn't know you possessed, when you've helped others through difficulties, even while facing your own struggles. These weren't accidents or learned behaviors, but expressions of genetic gifts refined through the ultimate survival test, your Neanderthal ancestors. Brought to this Ice Age challenge hundreds of thousands of years of specialized adaptation to harsh European and Asian conditions. They possessed sophisticated cold tolerance, advanced tool-making capabilities, and social structures designed for mutual support during extended hardship. The modern human ancestors who successfully interbred with Neanderthals brought different but equally valuable advantages: innovative thinking, rapid adaptation to new environments, and social flexibility that enabled large-scale cooperation and resource sharing across extended communities. The combination of these advantages created populations with survival capabilities that exceeded either parent group alone. Your genetic inheritance represents the successful outcome of this great mixing experiment, tested under the most demanding conditions Earth has ever offered human populations. Feel yourself connected to this legacy of proven success. Your unique combination of traits isn't random or accidental, but the result of natural selection operating under extreme pressure to preserve only the most effective survival strategies and genetic combinations. The communities that survived the Ice Age peak weren't just hanging on desperately, but were actively creating culture, art, and technological innovations that demonstrate remarkable human resilience and creativity, even under the most challenging circumstances. They maintained complex social structures, developed sophisticated hunting strategies, and even found time and resources for artistic expression. Your ancestors who survived this ultimate test passed on more than just physical and cognitive advantages. They transmitted cultural knowledge, social wisdom, and the emotional resilience needed to maintain hope and community bonds during extended hardship. These psychological and social gifts continue to serve you in facing your own modern challenges. Let this understanding sink deep into your consciousness as you rest here. You are not the product of lucky accident or random genetic lottery. You are the carefully selected result of the most rigorous testing process evolution has ever conducted. carrying forward only those traits and capabilities that proved their worth under ultimate pressure. Every modern challenge you face with the combined wisdom and strength of multiple human species, refined through hundreds of thousands of years of successful survival and proven through the ultimate test of Ice Age adaptation. Your genetic inheritance represents the very best survival strategies that human evolution has produced. Feel the confidence this knowledge brings, flowing through your body like warming sunlight. You possess tested, proven capabilities for handling whatever challenges life presents. Your unique traits and responses aren't weaknesses or quirks, but expressions of survival wisdom that has been refined across vast periods of time. Your ancestors survived not just as individuals, but as communities that maintained their humanity, their capacity for love and cooperation, and their ability to create beauty and meaning even under the harshest possible conditions. This emotional and social resilience flows through your genetic inheritance, providing you with inner resources for facing your own challenges with courage and hope. As you sink deeper into rest, carry with you the knowledge that you are connected to an unbroken chain of survivors, each generation successfully meeting their challenges and passing forward their accumulated wisdom and strength to create the remarkable individual you are today. Drift deeper into rest as we map the living legacy of your ancestors across the modern world, tracing how Neanderthal DNA has traveled through time to create the unique genetic heritage you carry today. Let your breathing slow naturally as we explore the fascinating global distribution of ancient DNA and discover where your own genetic inheritance fits within this vast human tapestry. Picture yourself looking down at Earth from high above, watching as genetic patterns flow like rivers across continents and through populations. The Neanderthal DNA you carry didn't arrive in your genetic makeup by accident, but followed specific historical pathways created by thousands of years of human migration, settlement, and mixing between populations. Feel yourself connected to this grand genetic journey that began tens of thousands of years ago when the first modern humans carrying Neanderthal DNA began spreading from their original mixing zones in the Middle East and Europe. Each migration event, each new settlement, each marriage between people from different regions contributed to the complex genetic map that determines your own ancient inheritance today. If you're of primarily European descent, you likely carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA, with the specific percentage depending on which regions your ancestors called home and which migration routes they followed. European populations show fascinating variation in their Neanderthal inheritance, with some regions carrying notably higher percentages than others. Northern and Eastern European populations tend to carry some of the highest concentrations of Neanderthal DNA found anywhere in the world. If your ancestry includes Scandinavian, Baltic, or Eastern European regions, your Neanderthal percentage likely falls toward the higher end of the European range, possibly reaching or exceeding 4% of your total genetic inheritance. Western Europeans, including populations from Britain, Ireland, France, and Iberia, typically carry somewhat lower but still substantial amounts of Neanderthal DNA. The specific percentages vary based on historical population movements and the degree of genetic isolation or mixing that occurred in different regions over thousands of years. Surprisingly, East Asian populations often carry even higher percentages of Neanderthal DNA than Europeans, despite being geographically more distant from the primary Neanderthal territories. Modern populations from China, Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia frequently show Neanderthal percentages ranging from 2 to over 4%, sometimes exceeding the highest European levels. This unexpected pattern reveals fascinating details about human migration and mixing events that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. The ancestors of East Asian populations apparently experienced additional mixing events with Neanderthal populations that had spread into Central and Eastern Asia, creating genetic combinations that were then carried eastward by migrating populations. Feel yourself connected to these ancient migration patterns as you rest here. If your ancestry includes East Asian heritage, you may carry some of the highest concentrations of Neanderthal DNA found in any modern population, reflecting complex mixing events that occurred in regions far from the European Neanderthal heartland. Central Asian populations, including those from regions that are now Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and surrounding areas, often show intermediate levels of Neanderthal inheritance that reflect their position along ancient migration routes. These populations served as bridges between European and East Asian genetic pools, creating unique combinations of ancient and modern human DNA. Middle Eastern populations typically carry moderate levels of Neanderthal DNA, which makes sense given that this region was likely the primary zone where modern humans first encountered and mixed with Neanderthal populations. The genetic signatures found in modern Middle Eastern populations provide important clues about the original mixing events that created all non-African Neanderthal inheritance. Modern African populations carry virtually no Neanderthal DNA, making them the most genetically pure modern humans on Earth today. This absence of Neanderthal genes in African populations provides crucial evidence that the mixing between modern humans and Neanderthals occurred after modern humans had already migrated out of Africa. The global distribution of Neanderthal DNA tells remarkable stories about human movement and settlement patterns over thousands of years. Island populations often show unique genetic signatures reflecting the specific groups that originally settled them, sometimes preserving ancient genetic combinations that have been modified by subsequent mixing in continental populations to Australian Aboriginal populations and Pacific Islander groups. Carry some of the most interesting genetic signatures found anywhere, including DNA from archaic human species other than Neanderthals. While their Neanderthal percentages are typically lower than those found in European and Asian populations, they carry significant amounts of DNA from Denisovans and possibly other archaic human species. Feel your breathing continuing to slow as you consider your own place within this global genetic map. Your specific Neanderthal percentage reflects not just your immediate family heritage, but the accumulated result of thousands of years of human migration, settlement, and mixing between populations carrying different combinations of ancient DNA. The distribution of Neanderthal DNA across modern populations isn't uniform or random. Specific genetic variants are found at different frequencies in different regions, creating a complex patchwork that reflects the historical movements and mixing patterns of ancient populations. Your own genetic combination represents a unique sampling from this global genetic library. Modern genetic testing can identify not just the total percentage of Neanderthal DNA you carry, but can trace specific genetic variants to particular regions and time periods. Some of your Neanderthal genes might reflect mixing events that occurred in the Middle East 40,000 years ago, while others might come from more recent population movements and mixing within Europe or Asia. The preservation of Neanderthal DNA across such vast periods of time represents one of the most remarkable success stories in human evolutionary history. These genetic variants didn't survive by accident, but because they provided real advantages to the populations that carried them, advantages that proved their worth across thousands of generations of natural selection. Regional variations in Neanderthal DNA percentages often correlate with local environmental challenges and historical survival pressures. Populations that faced particularly harsh climates or resource scarcity often show higher frequencies of Neanderthal genetic variants that enhanced cold tolerance, immune function, or metabolic efficiency. Your own Neanderthal percentage represents the intersection of multiple historical factors: the migration routes your ancestors followed, the regions they settled, the populations they mixed with, and the environmental challenges they faced. Each element of this complex history contributed to creating your unique genetic combination. Let this understanding of your global genetic connections settle into your mind like gentle starlight. You are connected not just to your immediate family and local community, but to a vast network of human populations spread across continents and millennia, all sharing common threads of ancient DNA that unite the entire human family. The modern distribution of Neanderthal DNA demonstrates that human evolution didn't end with the extinction of Neanderthal populations, but continued through the preservation and mixing of the best genetic adaptations from multiple human species. You are the living result of this ongoing evolutionary process, carrying forward tested genetic solutions to survival challenges. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest as you appreciate your place in this grand genetic tapestry. Your Neanderthal inheritance connects you to specific regions and populations, while also making you part of the larger human story of adaptation, survival, and success across vast periods of time and challenging environments. Allow yourself to sink into the fascinating revelations about which modern populations carry the highest levels of ancient DNA, discovering surprising connections that span continents and reveal unexpected patterns in human genetic inheritance. Feel your body settling deeper into comfort as we explore the remarkable story of how Neanderthal genes traveled to places and populations far from their original European homeland. Let your breathing slow naturally as we journey across the modern world, identifying populations that carry unusually high concentrations of Neanderthal DNA and understanding the historical events that created these unexpected genetic distributions. The patterns we discover will surprise you and help you understand your own genetic inheritance in new ways. Picture yourself exploring the genetic landscape of modern Italy, where populations in certain regions carry some of the highest Neanderthal percentages found anywhere in Europe. Tuscan populations in particular show remarkably high levels of ancient DNA, reflecting complex population histories that preserved Neanderthal genetic variants at unusually high frequencies. The mountainous regions of northern Italy served as genetic refugees during various climate changes and population movements throughout history, allowing ancient genetic combinations to persist that were diluted or lost in other European regions. If your ancestry includes northern Italian heritage, you may carry Neanderthal percentages that exceed most other European populations. Feel yourself connected to these ancient Italian mountain communities that preserved precious genetic heritage through thousands of years of changing conditions. Their isolation wasn't primitive backwardness, but successful conservation of tested genetic advantages that continue to benefit their descendants today. Travel with me now to the surprising genetic landscape of Finland, where populations show some of the most distinctive ancient DNA signatures found anywhere in the world. Finnish people carry not only substantial Neanderthal DNA percentages, but unique combinations of genetic variants that reflect their population's complex settlement history and periods of genetic isolation. The ancestors of modern Finns followed unique migration routes that brought them into contact with different Neanderthal populations than those encountered by other European groups. This created genetic combinations that are rarely found elsewhere, making Finnish people carriers of precious and unique ancient genetic heritage. If you have Finnish ancestry, you likely carry not only high percentages of Neanderthal DNA, but specific genetic variants that are uncommon in other populations. Your genetic inheritance represents a unique sampling from the ancient human genetic library, preserved through thousands of years of distinct population history. Journey across continents now to explore the remarkable genetic heritage of certain Chinese populations, where Neanderthal DNA reaches some of the highest concentrations found anywhere in the world. Northern Chinese populations in particular carry ancient DNA percentages that often exceed those found in European populations. Despite China's geographic distance from primary Neanderthal territories, this unexpected pattern reveals fascinating details about ancient human migrations and mixing, events that occurred across Central and Eastern Asia. The ancestors of modern Chinese populations encountered Neanderthal groups that had spread far eastward from their European origins, creating mixing events that produced genetic combinations carried forward through thousands of years. Feel yourself connected to these ancient Asian mixing zones where different human populations met, shared knowledge, and ultimately created the genetic diversity that characterizes modern East Asian populations. These meetings weren't conflicts between primitive and advanced peoples, but encounters between equally sophisticated populations with different specializations and advantages. The genetic patterns found in modern Korean and Japanese populations tell similar stories of ancient mixing with archaic human population, including both Neanderthals and other archaic species. These East Asian populations often carry total archaic DNA percentages that exceed those found in any European population, making them among the most genetically diverse humans on Earth. Explore now the unexpected genetic landscape of certain Pacific Island populations, where complex settlement histories created unique combinations of ancient DNA that are found nowhere else in the world. Some Melanesian populations carry remarkable concentrations of archaic human DNA, including contributions from multiple extinct human species. Papua New Guinea and surrounding island populations preserve some of the most ancient genetic signatures found in any modern human population, including DNA from Denisovans, Neanderthals, and possibly other archaic human species that haven't been identified yet through fossil evidence. These populations represent living libraries of ancient human genetic diversity. If you have Pacific Islander ancestry, you may carry genetic combinations that include multiple types of archaic human DNA, making your genetic inheritance even more complex and interesting than simple Neanderthal percentages might suggest. Your genetic patterns reflect some of the most ancient human mixing events that occurred during the original settlement of the Pacific region. Return with me to Europe to explore the surprising genetic heritage of certain Basque populations who, despite their geographic location in the heart of traditional Neanderthal territory, often show lower Neanderthal percentages than surrounding European populations. This pattern reflects the unique settlement and mixing history of Basque peoples. The genetic distinctiveness of Basque population demonstrates how local history and geographic isolation can create unique genetic signatures even within regions that experienced extensive ancient mixing. Basque genetic patterns provide important clues about the original population structure of Europe before the major mixing events that created modern genetic distributions. Feel your breathing continuing to deepen as you consider how geographic features like mountains, rivers, and seas influence the flow of genetic material between populations throughout human history. Natural barriers sometimes prevented mixing, creating isolated populations that preserved unique genetic combinations, while migration routes and trade paths facilitated genetic exchange over vast distances. The distribution of Neanderthal DNA across modern populations reflects thousands of years of human movement, settlement, trade, and intermarriage. Every mountain pass that allowed populations to meet, every river valley that served as a migration route, every coastal region that enabled sea travel contributed to creating the complex genetic map that determines your own ancient inheritance. Modern Siberian populations carry fascinating combinations of ancient DNA that reflect their position along migration routes connecting Europe and Asia with the Americas. These populations often show high frequencies of Neanderthal DNA combined with other genetic signatures that reveal their complex settlement history and connections to multiple continents. If your ancestry includes Siberian or Central Asian heritage, your genetic patterns may reflect some of the most extensive human migrations in history, carrying ancient DNA across vast distances and through multiple climate zones. Your genetic inheritance represents successful adaptation to some of the most challenging environments humans have ever inhabited. The genetic patterns found in certain Middle Eastern populations, reveal the central role this region played in early human migrations and mixing events. Populations from regions that are now Turkey, Syria, and the Levant often carry Neanderthal DNA signatures that provide crucial clues about the original mixing zones where modern humans first encountered their archaic cousins. Let this understanding of global genetic distributions settle into your consciousness like gentle rainfall. Your own genetic inheritance connects you to specific populations and regions while also making you part of the vast human story of migration, adaptation, and survival across continents and millennia. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest as you appreciate how your unique genetic combination reflects the intersection of multiple population histories, migration routes, and mixing events. You carry within your DNA the accumulated wisdom of successful human adaptation from multiple continents and thousands of years of tested survival strategies. Your Neanderthal percentage isn't just a number, but a connection to specific historical events, geographic regions, and ancient populations that contributed to creating the remarkable genetic diversity that makes you exactly who you are today. Rest in the comfort of self-discovery as we inventory the specific ancient gifts you carry, creating a detailed profile of the remarkable traits your Neanderthal ancestors have passed down to you. Feel your breathing naturally slowing as we explore the physical markers, behavioral patterns, and cognitive abilities that connect you directly to your Ice Age heritage. Let your body sink deeper into comfort as you prepare to recognize yourself in the detailed portrait of Neanderthal characteristics we're about to create together. This isn't just abstract genetic information, but a practical guide to understanding your own unique strengths, preferences, and capabilities through the lens of ancient wisdom encoded in your DNA. Begin by considering your physical build and structure. Neanderthal bodies were powerfully constructed with specific proportions that provided enormous advantages in harsh environments. If you have a naturally stocky or robust build, with broad shoulders and a barrel-shaped chest, you're displaying classic Neanderthal body architecture designed for maximum efficiency in cold climates. Feel the strength in your own bone structure as you rest here. Neanderthal bones were remarkably thick and dense, providing protection during demanding physical activities while supporting powerful muscles. If you've ever surprised medical professionals with unusually dense bone scans, if you've recovered quickly from fractures that should have been more serious, you may be experiencing this inherited structural advantage. Notice the shape and size of your hands as they rest comfortably. Neanderthal hands were notably robust, with thick fingers and powerful grip strength that far exceeded modern human capabilities. If you have broad hands with thick fingers, if your grip strength is unusually powerful, if you naturally excel at activities requiring sustained gripping or manipulation of tools, you're expressing direct physical inheritance from your ancient ancestors. Consider your facial features and head shape as we continue this inventory. Neanderthals possessed distinctive facial characteristics that were perfectly adapted for their climate and lifestyle. If you have a prominent nose, a strong jawline, a pronounced brow ridge, or a somewhat elongated skull shape, these features may reflect your ancient heritage rather than random individual variation. The large nasal cavities of your Neanderthal ancestors efficiently warmed and humidified incoming cold air, preventing respiratory damage during Ice Age winters. If you handle cold air better than most people, if you rarely experience sinus problems despite exposure to harsh weather, if you seem naturally resistant to respiratory infections, you may be benefiting from this inherited adaptation. Feel your breathing patterns as you rest here, noticing the natural rhythm and depth that feels most comfortable. Neanderthal lung capacity was substantially larger than modern human averages, allowing efficient oxygen processing even in challenging conditions. If you have unusually large lung capacity, if you maintain steady breathing during physical exertion when others become winded, you're experiencing this respiratory advantage. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed remarkable cold tolerance that allowed them to remain active and comfortable in temperatures that would quickly overwhelm modern humans. If you naturally prefer cooler environments, if you remain comfortable in conditions that make others shiver, if you seem to generate body heat more efficiently than those around you, you're expressing genetic adaptations refined across hundreds of thousands of years. Consider your natural sleep patterns and preferences as we continue building your trait profile. Neanderthals likely followed circadian rhythms closely tied to natural light cycles, with sleep patterns that adjusted seasonally to match changing daylight hours. If you sleep better in cooler temperatures, if you naturally wake at dawn regardless of artificial schedules, if you feel more energetic during certain seasons, you're following ancient biological programming. Examine your pain tolerance and physical resilience as you rest here. Archaeological evidence suggests Neanderthals routinely survived injuries that would permanently disable modern humans, indicating both remarkable healing abilities and exceptional pain tolerance. If you handle physical discomfort better than others expect, if you heal unusually quickly from cuts, bruises, or minor injuries, you're experiencing inherited resilience. Your Neanderthal ancestors demonstrated extraordinary manual dexterity combined with powerful grip strength, enabling them to craft tools of stunning sophistication and beauty. If you naturally excel at detailed work with your hands, if you find deep satisfaction in crafting or building things, if you can maintain precise control while applying significant force, you're expressing genetic gifts that made your ancestors master craftspeople. Feel the natural preferences in your cognitive processing as we explore mental traits. Neanderthal thinking patterns emphasize thoroughness and accuracy over speed, reflecting survival situations where careful analysis was more valuable than quick decisions. If you prefer to understand problems completely before acting, if you naturally think through all possible consequences before making choices, you're using ancient cognitive strategies. Your ancestors possessed exceptional spatial reasoning abilities that enabled sophisticated tool-making, architectural planning, and navigation through complex landscapes. If you easily visualize three-dimensional relationships, if you excel at mechanical problem-solving, if you naturally understand how objects will fit together or move in space, you're using cognitive capabilities that were essential for Ice Age survival. Consider your social preferences and relationship patterns. Neanderthal communities were small, intensely loyal groups where every member was precious and irreplaceable. If you naturally form deep, lasting friendships rather than wide social networks, if you prefer intimate gatherings to large social events, if you feel most comfortable with a close-knit group of trusted companions, you're expressing ancient social programming. The caring behavior demonstrated by Neanderthal communities extended to elderly and disabled members with devotion that speaks to sophisticated moral, reasoning, and emotional bonds. If you feel genuine distress when others suffer, if you instinctively want to help those who struggle, if you believe strongly in the value and dignity of every person regardless of their productivity, you're following social patterns that kept ancient communities strong. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed remarkable environmental awareness, capable of reading subtle signs in weather, landscape, and natural cycles that provided essential survival information. If you seem to sense weather changes before they're officially predicted, if you feel naturally comfortable navigating in outdoor environments, if you notice seasonal patterns and natural rhythms that others miss, you're expressing inherited environmental intelligence. Feel yourself recognizing these patterns in your own life as you sink deeper into rest. The traits you've always considered personal quirks or individual characteristics may actually be expressions of ancient genetic gifts, connecting you to a lineage of successful survivors whose wisdom continues to serve you in your modern life. The memory patterns of your Neanderthal ancestors were designed to preserve practical, survival-relevant information across entire lifetimes. If you have strong memory for how things work, where objects are located, or practical details that prove useful years later, if you naturally accumulate and organize useful knowledge, you're using memory systems optimized for real-world application. Your ancestors demonstrated sophisticated understanding of natural materials and their properties, enabling them to select appropriate resources for different purposes and combine materials in innovative ways. If you have intuitive understanding of how different materials behave, if you naturally choose appropriate tools and techniques for various tasks, you're expressing knowledge systems refined across countless generations. Let this inventory of your inherited traits settle into your consciousness like gentle starlight. You are not a collection of random characteristics, but a carefully designed combination of tested survival advantages, refined across vast periods of time and proven through the ultimate challenges of Ice Age adaptation. As you rest here, feel pride and appreciation for this remarkable inheritance. Every trait we've explored represents successful genetic solutions to survival challenges, passed down through an unbroken chain of ancestors who used these exact capabilities to thrive in demanding conditions and raise successful children who carried these gifts forward. Settle into the profound realization of strengths you possess that others simply cannot access. Understanding how your Neanderthal inheritance provides you with hidden advantages that enhance your daily life in ways you've never fully appreciated. Feel your breathing slowing as we uncover the remarkable capabilities that set you apart and serve you well in the modern world. Allow yourself to sink deeper into rest as we explore the concept of hybrid vigor, the scientific term for the enhanced capabilities that often result when different populations combine their genetic advantages. Your Neanderthal inheritance doesn't just add ancient traits to your modern human foundation, but creates synergistic combinations that can exceed the capabilities of either parent population. Picture your immune system as a sophisticated defense network, enhanced by genetic instructions refined across hundreds of thousands of years of pathogen exposure. Your Neanderthal ancestors survived disease challenges that would have eliminated populations without adequate immune responses, and they passed forward genetic variants that continue to protect their descendants today. If you recover from common illnesses faster than others around you, if you seem naturally resistant to infections that affect your family and friends, if you rarely experience severe symptoms from viruses and bacteria that cause significant problems for others, you may be experiencing this inherited immune advantage. Your body carries genetic instructions for disease resistance that were tested and proven across countless generations. Feel the quiet strength of your metabolism as you rest here, recognizing advantages that may have served you without your conscious awareness. Neanderthal metabolisms were highly efficient, capable of extracting maximum energy from available food while maintaining stable function during periods of resource scarcity. This metabolic efficiency continues to benefit their modern descendants. If you can go longer periods without eating than others without experiencing significant discomfort, if you maintain steady energy levels throughout the day without frequent snacking, if you seem to need less food than your size and activity level would suggest, you're experiencing inherited metabolic advantages that once meant the difference between survival and starvation. Your Neanderthal ancestors possessed remarkable stress tolerance that enabled them to maintain clear thinking and effective action even under extreme pressure. Life-threatening situations were routine parts of their existence, and successful survivors were those who could function optimally when stakes were highest. Consider your own responses to high-pressure situations. If you tend to become calmer and more focused when others around you panic, if you naturally take charge during emergencies, if you perform better under pressure rather than being overwhelmed by it, you're expressing genetic programming designed for crisis management and survival leadership. The healing abilities of your ancestors extended beyond simple injury recovery to encompass remarkable resilience in the face of physical trauma, illness, and environmental stress. Archaeological evidence shows Neanderthals who survived injuries that would permanently disable modern humans, living for years afterward and maintaining active roles in their communities. Feel this healing capacity in your own body as you rest. If you bounce back from physical setbacks faster than medical professionals expect, If you recover from surgeries or treatments more quickly than predicted timelines suggest, if your body seems naturally resistant to long-term damage from injuries or illnesses, you're benefiting from genetic instructions for enhanced recovery and repair. Your inherited advantages extend to cognitive resilience as well as physical recovery. Neanderthal minds were adapted for sustained function under challenging conditions, maintaining clear thinking and effective problem-solving even when faced with ongoing stress, resource limitations, or environmental pressures. If you can maintain focus and productivity during difficult periods when others become scattered or overwhelmed, if you actually think more clearly under pressure rather than less clearly, if you find creative solutions to problems precisely when conventional approaches fail, you're using mental resilience that was essential for ancient survival. The sensory capabilities of your Neanderthal ancestors were enhanced beyond modern human averages in several important areas. Their larger eyes provided superior night vision, essential for survival during the long, dark winters of Ice Age Europe. Their enhanced hearing could detect subtle sounds that warned of approaching dangers or indicated the presence of game animals. Notice your own sensory strengths as we continue exploring these hidden advantages. If you see clearly in low-light conditions that challenge others, if you hear sounds or notice environmental details that escape the attention of people around you, if you have strong intuitive responses to your physical environment, you may be experiencing inherited sensory enhancements. Your ancestors possessed remarkable navigational abilities that allowed them to traverse complex landscapes without modern tools or technologies. They could maintain accurate directional orientation across vast distances, remember detailed landscape features for years, and understand seasonal patterns in weather and resource availability with precision that guided successful survival planning. If you naturally maintain good directional sense even in unfamiliar areas, if you easily remember routes and landscape features, if you seem to have intuitive understanding of weather patterns and seasonal changes, you're using navigational systems that kept your ancestors alive during extensive hunting and migration journeys. Feel the confidence that comes from understanding these inherited capabilities. Your unique strengths aren't random personal talents, but expressions of genetic advantages that were refined through hundreds of thousands of years of practical testing in survival situations. These capabilities served your ancestors well, and they continue to serve you in your modern challenges. The tool-making abilities of your Neanderthal ancestors required not just manual skill, but sophisticated understanding of materials, physics and engineering principles. They could visualize complex mechanical relationships, predict how different materials would behave under stress, and create implements that combined multiple functional requirements with elegant design. If you naturally understand how mechanical systems work, if you can troubleshoot complex problems by visualizing internal relationships and interactions, if you have intuitive grasp of structural principles and material properties, you're expressing cognitive advantages that made your ancestors master engineers working with Stone Age materials. Your inherited advantages include enhanced pattern recognition, capabilities that enabled your ancestors to identify subtle regularities in animal behavior, weather systems, seasonal cycles, and resource availability. This cognitive gift allowed them to predict future conditions based on present observations, essential for successful hunting and resource management. Consider your own pattern recognition abilities as you rest here. If you easily spot trends and connections that others miss, if you can predict outcomes based on subtle indicators, if you naturally see underlying structures and relationships in complex situations, you're using analytical capabilities that provided crucial survival advantages. The emotional regulation systems of your Neanderthal ancestors were designed for community harmony and mutual support during extended periods of stress and challenge. They could maintain stable relationships, effective cooperation, and group morale even under conditions that would fragment less resilient communities. If you naturally serve as a calming influence during group stress, if others seek your support during difficult times, If you can maintain emotional stability when circumstances around you become chaotic, you're expressing social-emotional capabilities that kept ancient communities together through their greatest challenges. Let this understanding of your hidden advantages settle into your consciousness. Like warming sunlight, you possess capabilities that have been tested across vast periods of time and proven through the ultimate challenges of survival and adaptation. These aren't just interesting genetic curiosities, but practical advantages that enhance your effectiveness in the modern world. Feel yourself sinking deeper into rest as you appreciate this remarkable inheritance. Every challenge you face with genetic tools that have been refined across hundreds of thousands of years. Your unique combination of abilities represents successful solutions to survival problems, carefully preserved and passed forward through countless generations of ancestors who use these exact capabilities to thrive. Allow your mind to rest in understanding why you relate to others the way you do, recognizing that your social instincts and relationship patterns are written in your most ancient genetic code. Feel your breathing naturally slowing as we explore the sophisticated social programming your Neanderthal ancestors developed across hundreds of thousands of years of successful community life. Let yourself sink deeper into comfort as we journey into the social world of your ancient ancestors, observing communities that sustain themselves through some of the most challenging conditions humans have ever faced. Their social structures weren't primitive or simple, but sophisticated systems that balanced individual needs with collective survival while maintaining the emotional bonds that made life meaningful even under harsh circumstances. Picture Neanderthal communities as small, intensely connected groups where every member was precious and irreplaceable. Unlike modern societies that can afford to treat individuals as expendable parts of massive systems, your ancestors lived in communities where the loss of any person represented a significant threat to group survival and well-being. Feel yourself witnessing the deep emotional bonds that characterized these ancient communities. Archaeological evidence reveals that Neanderthals cared for elderly and disabled members with devotion that required significant resource investment, demonstrating moral sophistication and emotional attachment that went far beyond simple practical cooperation. If you naturally form deep, loyal relationships rather than wide social networks, you're expressing ancient social programming designed for small group survival. This isn't social awkwardness or inability to function in large groups, but genetic preference for the relationship patterns that sustain successful communities across vast periods of time. Your Neanderthal ancestors developed sophisticated conflict resolution mechanisms that maintained group harmony even under the stress of resource scarcity, harsh weather, and constant survival challenges. Communities that couldn't resolve internal disputes effectively simply didn't survive. So your genetic inheritance includes strong programming for cooperation, compromise, and mutual support. Notice your own instinctive responses to group conflict as you rest here. If you feel genuine distress when people around you argue or compete destructively, if you naturally try to find solutions that work for everyone involved, if you prefer cooperation and mutual benefit over individual victory, you're following social patterns that kept ancient communities stable and resilient. The child-rearing practices of your ancestors involved the entire community in educating and protecting young members, creating social bonds that extended far beyond immediate family relationships. Every adult had responsibility for every child, and every child learned from multiple teachers and role models within their extended community network. If you naturally feel protective toward children who aren't biologically your own, if you instinctively want to share knowledge and skills with younger people, if you believe strongly that raising successful children is a community responsibility rather than purely individual obligation, you're expressing ancient social programming that ensured successful transmission of survival knowledge across generations. Feel the wisdom of your inherited social instincts flowing through your consciousness. Your ancestors understood that survival depended not just on individual strength and skill, but on the ability to create and maintain communities that could function effectively across multiple generations through changing conditions and under various forms of stress and challenge. The leadership patterns in Neanderthal communities were based on expertise, experience, and the ability to contribute to group success rather than on dominance or aggressive competition. Leadership roles shifted based on circumstances, with different individuals taking charge during hunting, toolmaking, childcare, or other specialized activities. If you naturally take leadership roles when your expertise is most relevant, rather than seeking general authority over others, if you prefer collaborative decision-making to hierarchical command structures, if you evaluate leaders based on their ability to contribute to group success rather than their ability to dominate others, you're following ancient governance patterns. Your Neanderthal ancestors developed sophisticated systems for sharing resources that ensured community survival even during periods of scarcity. These weren't simple charity systems, but complex networks of mutual obligation and support that balanced individual contribution with collective need while maintaining incentives for personal effort and skill development. Consider your own attitudes toward resource sharing and mutual support. If you naturally share knowledge, tools, and resources with others in your community, if you believe strongly in mutual aid and collective responsibility, if you feel satisfaction in contributing to group success, even when it requires personal sacrifice, you're expressing genetic programming that sustained ancient communities through their most challenging periods. The emotional intelligence of your ancestors was highly developed, enabling them to read subtle social cues, understand group dynamics, and respond appropriately to the needs and concerns of community members. This social sensitivity was essential for maintaining group harmony and ensuring that conflicts were resolved before they threatened community stability. Feel this inherited emotional awareness in your own social interactions. If you naturally pick up on subtle emotional cues that others miss, if you instinctively know when someone is struggling even when they haven't explicitly communicated their distress, if you can sense group tensions and dynamics that aren't obvious to less socially attuned individuals, you're using emotional intelligence refined across countless generations. Your Neanderthal ancestors valued consensus and group input in important decisions, understanding that survival choices affected everyone and that the best solutions often emerge from collective wisdom rather than individual brilliance. They developed decision-making processes that incorporated diverse perspectives while still enabling timely action when circumstances required quick responses. If you prefer group discussions and collaborative problem-solving to individual decision-making, if you naturally seek input from others before making choices that affect multiple people, if you believe that complex problems are usually best solved through collective intelligence rather than individual authority, you're following ancient democratic principles. The loyalty patterns of your ancestors were intense and enduring, creating bonds that persisted through hardship, conflict, and changing circumstances. Community members could depend on each other for support during illness, injury, resource scarcity, and other challenges that threatened individual survival. Notice the depth of your own loyalty commitments as you rest here. If you form lasting friendships that endure through various life changes and challenges, if you naturally maintain connections with people who have been important to you even when circumstances separate you, if you feel genuine concern for the long-term well-being of people you care about, you're expressing genetic programming for sustained social bonds. Your inherited social programming includes strong instincts for protecting vulnerable community members, including children, elderly people, and those who are temporarily or permanently unable to fully care for themselves. This protective instinct wasn't just emotional sentiment, but practical recognition that community strength depended on caring for all members. If you naturally feel protective toward people who are struggling or vulnerable, if you instinctively want to help those who are facing challenges beyond their individual capacity to handle, if you believe strongly in the moral obligation to support community members who need assistance, You're expressing ancient social values that sustained successful communities. The communication patterns of your Neanderthal ancestors emphasized clarity, honesty, and direct expression of needs and concerns rather than complex social manipulation or deceptive strategies. Communities that couldn't communicate effectively about essential matters simply didn't survive the challenges they faced. Feel this preference for honest, direct communication in your own social interactions. If you naturally express your thoughts and feelings clearly rather than expecting others to guess your needs, if you appreciate straightforward communication from others, even when it's sometimes uncomfortable, if you prefer authentic relationships to socially complex but emotionally superficial connections, you're following ancient communication patterns. Let this understanding of your social programming settle into your consciousness like gentle rainfall. Your relationship preferences and social instincts aren't personal quirks or individual variations, but expressions of sophisticated social systems that sustained human communities through hundreds of thousands of years of successful survival and adaptation. As you sink deeper into rest, feel appreciation for this remarkable social inheritance that connects you to a lineage of successful community builders whose genetic wisdom continues to guide your relationships and social choices in the modern world. Drift into the deep, knowing that your intuitive abilities connect you to hundreds of thousands of years of survival wisdom. Understanding how your Neanderthal inheritance provides you with sophisticated sensory and cognitive capabilities that operate below the level of conscious thought. Feel your breathing naturally slowing as we explore the remarkable intuitive gifts that helped your ancestors thrive in demanding environments. Allow yourself to settle deeper into comfort as we examine the sophisticated early warning systems your ancient ancestors developed to detect subtle changes in their environment that could indicate opportunities or threats. Their survival depended on reading signs that were often barely perceptible, requiring sensory sensitivity and pattern recognition abilities far exceeding those needed in our modern, controlled environments. Picture your Neanderthal ancestors moving through ancient landscapes with awareness that extended far beyond simple visual observation. They could sense approaching weather changes through subtle alterations in air pressure, humidity, and atmospheric conditions that preceded visible storm signs by hours or even days. This meteorological sensitivity allowed them to seek appropriate shelter and prepare for severe weather before it arrived. Feel this inherited weather sensitivity in your own body as you rest here. If you seem to sense approaching storms, seasonal changes, or shifts in atmospheric conditions before they're officially predicted, if your body responds to weather patterns in ways that others around you don't experience, you're using sensory capabilities that provided crucial survival advantages to your ancient ancestors. Your ancestors possessed remarkable ability to read animal behavior and understand the complex ecological relationships that governed resource availability in their territories. They could detect the presence of game animals through subtle tracks, scent traces, and environmental disturbances that would be invisible to untrained modern observers, enabling successful hunting even when direct visual contact was impossible. Consider your own intuitive responses to animals and natural environments. If you naturally sense the presence of wildlife before seeing them, if animals seem to respond to you differently than they do to other people, if you have strong instinctive understanding of natural ecosystems and ecological relationships, you're expressing inherited capabilities that were essential for successful resource gathering. The danger detection systems of your Neanderthal ancestors operated through sophisticated integration of multiple sensory inputs and environmental cues. They could sense potential threats through combinations of sound, scent, visual details, and even electromagnetic or atmospheric changes that warned of approaching predators, geological instability, or human dangers. Notice your own intuitive responses to potentially dangerous situations. If you sometimes feel inexplicably uncomfortable in certain locations or around specific individuals, act before any obvious threat becomes apparent, if you have strong gut feelings about safety that prove accurate even when you can't explain the logical basis for your concerns, you're using inherited threat detection capabilities. Your ancestors developed extraordinary navigational intuition that allowed them to maintain accurate directional orientation across vast distances and complex terrain without modern technological aids. They could sense magnetic fields, understand celestial patterns, and read landscape features with precision that enabled successful long-distance travel and resource mapping. Feel this inherited spatial awareness as you rest here. If you naturally maintain good directional sense even in unfamiliar areas, if you can find your way in complex environments without conscious map consultation, if you have intuitive understanding of geographic relationships and terrain features, you're using navigational systems refined across countless generations of successful exploration. The social intuition of your Neanderthal ancestors enabled them to read subtle emotional and behavioral cues from community members, understanding group dynamics and individual needs even when they weren't explicitly communicated. This social sensitivity was essential for maintaining community harmony and ensuring that conflicts were resolved before they threatened group stability. Consider your own social intuitive abilities. If you naturally pick up on emotional undercurrents and group dynamics that aren't obvious to others, if you can sense when someone needs support or attention even when they haven't explicitly asked for help, if you instinctively understand social situations and relationship patterns, you're expressing inherited emotional intelligence. Your ancestors possess sophisticated understanding of plant properties and seasonal cycles that enabled them to locate medicinal and nutritional resources with precision timing. They could sense which plants were ready for harvest, identify beneficial versus harmful species, and understand complex preparation methods that maximized therapeutic benefits while minimizing potential dangers. Notice your own intuitive responses to plants and natural remedies. If you naturally gravitate towards specific plants or natural substances when you're feeling unwell, if you have strong instinctive preferences for certain foods during different seasons or health conditions, if you seem to understand plant properties and natural healing methods without formal training, you're accessing ancient botanical knowledge. The timing intuition of your Neanderthal ancestors allowed them to coordinate complex activities like hunting, migration, and resource gathering with optimal precision. They could sense the best moments for various activities based on subtle environmental cues, seasonal patterns, and natural rhythms that influence success rates for different survival tasks. Feel this inherited timing sensitivity in your own life. If you naturally know when to act and when to wait in various situations, if you have strong instinctive understanding of optimal timing for important decisions or activities, if you can sense natural rhythms and cycles that guide your choices, you're using temporal awareness that served your ancestors well. Your inherited intuitive abilities include sophisticated pattern recognition that operates below conscious thought levels, identifying subtle regularities and connections in complex information that would require extensive analysis through purely logical approaches. This cognitive gift enabled your ancestors to make successful predictions about resource availability, weather patterns, and survival conditions. Consider how your mind naturally processes complex information. If you often understand solutions to problems before you can logically explain how you arrived at those conclusions, if you recognize patterns and connections that others need detailed analysis to discover, if you make successful predictions based on subtle indicators rather than obvious evidence, you're using inherited analytical capabilities. The emotional intuition of your ancestors enabled them to understand and respond appropriately to the psychological needs of community members, maintaining group morale and mutual support even under challenging conditions. They could sense when individuals needed encouragement, assistance, or space, and they understood how to provide appropriate support without intrusion or overwhelming care. Notice your own emotional intuitive responses. if you naturally know how to comfort people who are distressed, if you instinctively understand what others need during difficult times, if you can sense emotional states and provide appropriate responses without being told specifically what would be helpful, you're expressing inherited empathetic capabilities. Your Neanderthal ancestors developed sophisticated resource intuition that helped them locate water, shelter materials, tool-making resources, and other essential supplies even in unfamiliar territories. They could sense the presence of useful resources through subtle environmental indicators and understand the quality and suitability of materials for various purposes. Feel this inherited resource awareness as you rest here. If you naturally notice useful materials and opportunities that others overlook, if you have strong instinctive understanding of what will work well for specific purposes, if you can sense the quality and potential of resources without extensive testing, you're using capabilities that helped your ancestors thrive in demanding conditions. Let this understanding of your intuitive inheritance settle into your consciousness like starlight. Your gut feelings, instinctive responses, and subtle awareness aren't random or unreliable, but expressions of sophisticated sensory and cognitive systems that were refined across vast periods of time through practical testing in survival situations. As you sink deeper into rest, feel confidence in your intuitive abilities and trust in the ancient wisdom that flows through your inherited sensory systems. Your ancestors survived and thrived by developing and trusting exactly these capabilities, and they continue to serve you well in navigating the complexities of modern life. Rest in the knowledge that creativity flows through you from the first human artists, the original makers of beauty and meaning who created art, not as luxury, but as essential expression of their sophisticated minds and spirits. Feel your breathing naturally slowing as we explore the remarkable artistic inheritance your Neanderthal ancestors have passed down to you through hundreds of thousands of years of creative expression. Allow yourself to sink deeper into comfort as we journey into the creative world of your ancient ancestors, discovering that their artistic abilities were far more sophisticated and developed than early researchers ever imagined. Recent archaeological discoveries reveal that Neanderthals were among the first humans to create symbolic art, musical instruments, and decorative objects that demonstrate aesthetic sensitivity and creative intelligence equal to any human population. Picture your Neanderthal ancestors creating the first known cave paintings in European caves over 60,000 years ago, tens of thousands of years before modern humans arrived in these regions. Watch as weathered hands mix pigments with sophisticated understanding of color properties, applying them to cave walls with techniques that reveal both artistic vision and technical mastery. These weren't crude or primitive markings, but sophisticated artistic expressions that required complex planning, understanding of visual composition, and appreciation for aesthetic beauty that went far beyond simple functional communication. Your ancestors created art because they possessed the cognitive sophistication and emotional depth that drives all human creative expression. Feel the creative satisfaction flowing through your own hands as you recognize this artistic heritage. If you're naturally drawn to visual arts, if you find deep satisfaction in creating beautiful objects or images, if you appreciate color, form, and composition in ways that seem instinctive rather than learned, you're channeling genetic patterns that drove your ancestors to create lasting beauty even under harsh survival conditions. Your Neanderthal ancestors were master craftspeople who created tools of stunning sophistication and beauty that went far beyond simple functional requirements. Archaeological analysis reveals stone implements so perfectly made they rival the finest artistic creations, combining practical effectiveness with elegant design principles that demonstrate genuine aesthetic sophistication. Observe your ancestors as they transform raw stone into implements of breathtaking beauty and precision. Every strike of stone against stone was calculated not only for functional effectiveness, but for aesthetic appeal, creating tools that were simultaneously practical instruments and works of art that provided psychological satisfaction alongside material utility, if you naturally create objects that combine beauty with function, if you believe that useful things should also be aesthetically pleasing, if you find satisfaction in craftsmanship and attention to detail that exceeds purely practical requirements, you're expressing artistic values that characterized your Neanderthal ancestors across hundreds of thousands of years. Recent discoveries reveal that Neanderthals created some of the earliest known musical instruments, crafting bone flutes and other sound-making devices that demonstrate understanding of acoustic principles and appreciation for musical expression. These instruments weren't crude noisemakers, but sophisticated devices capable of producing complex melodies and harmonic relationships. Feel the musical sensitivity that flows through your genetic inheritance. If you're naturally drawn to music, if you can hear subtle acoustic relationships and appreciate complex sound patterns, if you find deep emotional satisfaction in musical expression either as creator or appreciator, you're connecting to artistic traditions that stretch back to the very origins of human creative expression. Your ancestors demonstrated sophisticated understanding of symbolic thinking, creating decorative objects and ornamental items that required abstract conceptualization and appreciation for beauty that served no immediate survival function. They collected colorful shells, interesting stones, and other attractive materials that they modified and arranged for purely aesthetic purposes. Consider your own aesthetic responses and creative impulses. If you naturally collect beautiful objects, arrange your environment for visual pleasure, or modify functional items to make them more attractive. If you appreciate natural beauty and feel moved to preserve or enhance it, you're expressing genetic programming that drove your ancestors to create beauty, even under the most challenging circumstances. The textile and fiber arts of your Neanderthal ancestors were highly sophisticated, involving complex understanding of material properties, structural principles, and decorative techniques. They created clothing, containers, and other fiber objects that combined practical function with aesthetic beauty, demonstrating artistic sensibilities applied to essential survival activities. If you're naturally skilled with textile arts, fiber crafts, or any activities involving manipulation of flexible materials, if you understand how different materials behave and can visualize complex three-dimensional relationships in flexible structures, you're using artistic capabilities that were essential for creating both functional and beautiful objects in the ancient world. Your ancestors possessed remarkable spatial visualization, abilities that enabled them to plan and execute complex artistic projects requiring integration of multiple elements, sequential steps, and long-term vision of finished results. They could envision completed artworks while looking at raw materials, understanding exactly which processes would transform basic resources into sophisticated creative expressions. Feel this inherited spatial artistic intelligence in your own creative processes. If you can visualize complex projects before beginning them, if you naturally understand how different artistic elements will work together, if you can see potential beauty in raw materials and understand how to bring that beauty into visible expression, you're using capabilities refined across countless generations. The color sensitivity of your Neanderthal ancestors was highly developed, enabling them to create sophisticated pigments, understand color relationships, and apply color theory in their artistic creations. They could extract dyes and pigments from various natural sources, understanding chemical processes required to create stable, beautiful colors that would last across time. Notice your own color sensitivity and preferences. If you naturally respond strongly to color relationships, if you have intuitive understanding of how colors work together or clash, if you're drawn to create or surround yourself with specific color combinations that provide emotional satisfaction, you're expressing inherited aesthetic programming. Your ancestors understood that artistic creation provided psychological benefits that were essential for community well-being and individual mental health. They created art not just for practical communication or decoration, but because the creative process itself provided satisfaction, meaning an emotional regulation that enhanced their ability to cope with challenging conditions. If you find that creative activities provide you with emotional satisfaction and stress relief that goes beyond simple entertainment, if you feel psychologically healthier when you're regularly engaged in creative expression, if artistic activities seem essential for your well-being rather than optional luxuries, you're experiencing the mental health benefits that made artistic expression valuable for ancient survival. The artistic traditions of your Neanderthal ancestors were passed down through generations, creating cultural continuity and shared aesthetic values that strengthened community bonds and provided psychological anchoring during periods of change and challenge. Artistic expression served social functions that enhanced group cohesion and cultural identity. Feel your connection to these artistic traditions as you rest here. If you're drawn to traditional artistic techniques and materials, if you appreciate handcrafted objects over mass-produced items, if you believe that preserving artistic traditions and passing creative skills to future generations is important cultural work, you're expressing values that sustained artistic expression across vast periods of time. Your inherited artistic capabilities include not only technical skills but aesthetic sensitivity and creative vision that enable you to see beauty in unexpected places and imagine creative solutions to various challenges. This artistic intelligence enhances your ability to solve problems creatively, appreciate beauty in daily life, and contribute to the cultural richness of your community. Let this understanding of your artistic inheritance settle into your consciousness like gentle rainfall. The creative impulses that move you, the aesthetic preferences that guide your choices, the satisfaction you find in making beautiful things, all connect you to an unbroken tradition of human artistic expression that stretches back to the very origins of symbolic thinking and creative consciousness. Feel yourself settling into the calm that comes from accessing wisdom tested across millennia, understanding how your Neanderthal ancestors developed sophisticated stress management techniques that remain remarkably effective for handling the challenges of modern life. Let your breathing slow naturally as we explore ancient coping strategies that are encoded in your genetic memory and available for your use. Today, allow your body to sink deeper into comfort as we journey into the stress management systems your ancestors developed during hundreds of thousands of years of facing survival challenges that would overwhelm most modern humans. Their techniques weren't abstract philosophical concepts, but practical, tested methods for maintaining mental and emotional stability under extreme pressure. Picture your Neanderthal ancestors facing the constant stresses of Ice Age survival, unpredictable weather, resource scarcity, physical dangers, and the ongoing responsibility of keeping their communities alive and thriving. Despite these enormous pressures, they maintained stable communities, raised successful children, and created art and culture that demonstrates remarkable psychological resilience. The foundation of their stress management system was deep connection to natural rhythms and cycles. Your ancestors understood that human well-being depends on alignment with seasonal patterns, daily light cycles, and natural environmental changes. They worked with these rhythms rather than fighting against them, using natural cues to guide their activity and rest patterns. Feel this inherited wisdom in your own stress responses. If you naturally seek outdoor environments when feeling overwhelmed, if exposure to natural settings provides you with calming effects that indoor environments cannot match, if you find restoration in seasonal activities and natural beauty, you're accessing ancient stress management techniques that served your ancestors extraordinarily well. Your Neanderthal ancestors developed sophisticated group support systems that distributed stress across community networks, rather than allowing individuals to face challenges in isolation. They understood that shared burdens are lighter burdens, and they created social structures that provided both practical assistance and emotional support during difficult periods. Notice your own instinctive responses to stress and challenge. If you naturally seek support from trusted friends and family members during difficult times, if you find comfort in talking through problems with others who care about you, if you feel stronger when facing challenges as part of a supportive group rather than alone, you're following ancient patterns that sustain communities through their greatest difficulties. The physical stress management techniques of your ancestors emphasized rhythmic, repetitive activities that provided both practical benefits and psychological regulation. Toolmaking, food preparation, fiber work, and other essential survival activities were performed in ways that created meditative states and emotional equilibrium while accomplishing necessary tasks. Feel the calming effects of rhythmic, repetitive activity in your own life. If you find satisfaction and stress relief in activities like knitting, woodworking, gardening, cooking, or other hands-on work that engages your body in steady, purposeful movement, you're using ancient techniques for emotional regulation that combine practical productivity with psychological healing. Your ancestors understood that stress management requires balance between activity and rest, engagement and withdrawal, social connection and solitude. They created daily and seasonal patterns that provided adequate time for both energetic work and restorative rest, understanding that sustainable performance requires regular renewal. Consider your own needs for balance and restoration. If you perform better when you alternate periods of intense activity with periods of quiet rest, if you need solitude and reflection time to maintain emotional stability, if you naturally seek balance between social engagement and personal space, you're following ancient wisdom about sustainable living patterns. The emotional regulation techniques of your Neanderthal ancestors were based on acceptance of natural emotional cycles rather than attempts to maintain constant positivity or eliminate all negative feelings. They understood that emotions serve important functions and that psychological health comes from experiencing the full range of human feeling rather than avoiding difficult emotions. Allow yourself to feel this inherited emotional wisdom. If you naturally accept difficult emotions as temporary states rather than permanent problems, if you can experience sadness, anger, or fear without being overwhelmed by them, if you understand that emotional intensity usually decreases naturally when feelings are acknowledged rather than suppressed, you're using ancient emotional regulation techniques. Your ancestors developed sophisticated ritual practices that provided psychological anchoring during periods of uncertainty and change. These weren't superstitious behaviors, but practical psychological techniques that created stability, meaning, and community connection during challenging times when external circumstances were unpredictable. Feel the value of ritual and routine in your own stress management. If you find comfort in regular practices like morning routines, evening rituals, or seasonal celebrations, if consistent patterns help you maintain emotional stability during chaotic periods, if meaningful ceremonies or traditions provide you with psychological anchoring, you're expressing ancient wisdom about the psychological benefits of structured practice. The problem-solving approaches of your Neanderthal ancestors emphasize patience and thoroughness rather than quick fixes or impulsive reactions. They understood that sustainable solutions to complex problems require careful consideration of all variables and long-term thinking about consequences and outcomes. Notice your own natural approaches to handling stressful problems. If you prefer to think through challenges completely before taking action, if you naturally consider long-term consequences rather than focusing only on immediate relief, if you find that patient, methodical approaches to problems usually produce better results than hasty reactions. You're using ancient cognitive strategies for effective stress management. Your ancestors understood that physical activity serves important psychological functions beyond simple fitness maintenance. They integrated movement naturally into their daily activities, understanding that physical exercise provides emotional regulation, stress relief, and mental clarity that enhance overall psychological well-being. Consider the role of physical activity in your own stress management. If you find that regular movement helps you think more clearly and feel more emotionally balanced, if physical challenges provide you with confidence and stress relief, If you naturally use physical activity to work through difficult emotions and mental problems, you're accessing ancient connections between physical and psychological health. The sleep and rest patterns of your Neanderthal ancestors were carefully attuned to natural cycles and designed to provide maximum restoration and stress recovery. They understood that adequate rest is essential for maintaining the physical and psychological resilience needed to handle ongoing challenges. Effectively, feel this inherited wisdom about the importance of proper rest. If you naturally feel calmer and more capable when you're getting adequate sleep, if you can sense when your body needs extra rest during stressful periods, if you understand that many problems seem more manageable after a good night's rest, you're following ancient principles of stress management through restoration. Let this understanding of your inherited stress management capabilities settle into your consciousness like warm sunlight. You possess genetic programming for resilience, emotional regulation, and effective coping that has been tested across hundreds of thousands of years of successful survival under challenging conditions. Allow your body to remember the natural sleep patterns that sustained your ancestors through countless generations. Understanding how Neanderthal sleep wisdom continues to influence your rest needs and preferences in ways that can enhance your modern sleep quality. Feel your breathing naturally deepening as we explore the ancient sleep knowledge encoded in your genetic memory. Let yourself sink deeper into the comfortable position you found, recognizing that your body's natural sleep responses connect you to hundreds of thousands of years of successful rest patterns that sustained communities through harsh conditions and demanding survival challenges. Your sleep preferences aren't random individual variations, but expressions of tested biological rhythms. Picture your Neanderthal ancestors creating communal rest areas in the safety of caves and sheltered locations, understanding that sleep was both individual restoration and community protection time. They developed sophisticated approaches to group sleep that balanced personal comfort with collective security, creating rest environments that felt both safe and naturally conducive to deep, restorative sleep. Your ancestors understood that sleep quality depends heavily on environmental factors that modern life often disrupts. They naturally aligned their sleep cycles with seasonal changes in daylight, allowing their circadian rhythms to adjust gradually to longer winter nights and shorter summer rest periods without the artificial disruption of electric lighting. Feel this inherited sensitivity to natural light cycles in your own sleep patterns. If you naturally feel sleepier earlier during winter months and more alert during longer summer days, if exposure to natural light during the day helps you sleep better at night, if artificial lighting in the evening seems to interfere with your natural sleepiness, you're experiencing ancient biological programming. Your Neanderthal ancestors preferred cooler sleeping temperatures that matched the natural cooling that occurs during nighttime hours. Understanding that the body's natural temperature drop is an important signal for deep sleep initiation. Their sleeping environments were naturally cool, promoting the physiological changes that enhance sleep quality and restoration. Notice your own temperature preferences for optimal sleep. If you naturally sleep better in cooler rooms, if you find that being too warm disrupts your sleep quality even when you're otherwise comfortable, if you instinctively adjust your sleeping environment to maintain optimal temperature for rest, you're following ancient sleep wisdom that remains effective today. The communal sleeping arrangements of your ancestors provided both physical warmth and psychological security that enhanced sleep quality during dangerous and uncertain times. They understood that feeling safe and connected to supportive community members reduces the stress and vigilance that interfere with deep, restorative sleep. Consider your own sleep preferences regarding proximity to others. If you naturally sleep better when you feel secure and protected, if the presence of trusted family members or partners enhances your sleep quality, if you prefer sleeping arrangements that provide both privacy and connection to supportive others, you're expressing inherited preferences for secure sleep environments. Your ancestors developed sophisticated understanding of the relationship between daily physical activity and sleep quality, ensuring that their demanding lifestyle provided the physical exhaustion that promotes deep, restorative sleep. Their days included varied physical activities that engaged different muscle groups and provided the natural fatigue that makes rest both welcome and effective. Feel the connection between your own activity levels and sleep quality. If you naturally sleep better on days when you've engaged in substantial physical activity, if you find that varied movement and physical challenges during the day enhance your rest at night, if sedentary periods seem to interfere with your natural sleep patterns, you're experiencing ancient connections between daytime activity and nighttime restoration. The seasonal sleep adjustments of your Neanderthal ancestors allowed them to naturally increase rest duration during winter months when daylight was scarce and resources required conservation, while reducing sleep during summer periods when longer daylight enabled extended activity and resource gathering. Notice your own seasonal sleep tendencies and energy patterns. If you naturally want to sleep longer during winter months, if you feel more energetic and require less sleep during summer, if your activity preferences and energy levels shift with seasonal changes, you're following biological rhythms that served your ancestors well across hundreds of thousands of years. Your ancestors understood that sleep preparation begins hours before actual rest time, creating evening routines that gradually shifted their bodies and minds from active daytime modes toward the relaxed states that promote easy sleep initiation. These weren't complex rituals, but natural transitions that honored the body's need for gradual preparation. Consider your own natural preferences for evening activities and sleep preparation. If you naturally prefer quieter, less stimulating activities as bedtime approaches, if you find that gradual transitions from daytime activity to nighttime rest work better than abrupt changes, if certain evening routines help you feel ready for sleep, you're accessing inherited wisdom about sleep preparation. The dream experiences of your Neanderthal ancestors likely served important psychological functions, providing mental processing of daily experiences, emotional regulation, and problem-solving that enhanced their ability to handle complex survival challenges. They may have understood that dreams contribute to learning, memory consolidation, and creative problem-solving. Feel the value of your own dream experiences and the restoration that occurs during deep sleep phases. If you naturally remember dreams and find them meaningful or interesting, if you wake from good sleep feeling mentally clearer and emotionally more balanced, if you sense that sleep provides psychological processing that helps you handle daily challenges, you're experiencing ancient connections between rest and mental health. Your inherited sleep wisdom includes understanding that rest needs vary based on stress levels, physical demands, seasonal changes, and life circumstances. Your ancestors naturally adjusted their sleep patterns to match changing conditions, increasing rest during challenging periods and maintaining flexibility in their sleep schedules based on survival requirements. Notice your own natural sleep flexibility and varying rest needs. If you can sense when your body needs extra rest during stressful periods, if you naturally adjust your sleep duration based on physical demands and life circumstances, if you prefer flexible sleep schedules that respond to your body's changing needs rather than rigid external schedules, you're following ancient biological wisdom. The wake-up patterns of your Neanderthal ancestors were naturally aligned with dawn cycles and seasonal light changes, allowing their bodies to gradually emerge from sleep in response to natural environmental cues rather than jarring artificial alarms that disrupt natural sleep cycles and create morning stress. Feel your own natural awakening preferences and responses to different wake-up methods. If you naturally prefer waking gradually rather than being startled awake, if exposure to morning light helps you feel more alert and ready for the day, if you can sense your body's natural wake-up rhythms when artificial schedules don't interfere, you're expressing inherited patterns for healthy sleep-wake transitions. Let this understanding of your sleep inheritance settle into your body like gentle warmth, recognizing that your natural sleep preferences and needs connect you to tested biological patterns that sustain successful communities across vast periods of time. Rest into the understanding that your energy naturally follows patterns established across hundreds of thousands of years, recognizing how your Neanderthal inheritance influences your seasonal rhythms, daily energy cycles, and natural preferences for activity and rest throughout the year. Feel your breathing slowing as we explore the ancient energy wisdom encoded in your biological systems. Allow yourself to sink deeper into comfort as we explore the sophisticated energy management systems your ancestors developed to thrive in environments with dramatic seasonal variations, understanding how to work with natural cycles rather than fighting against them. Their survival depended on matching their energy expenditure and conservation to environmental conditions and resource availability. Picture your Neanderthal ancestors moving through the dramatic seasonal changes of Ice Age Europe, where summer and winter represented completely different worlds requiring entirely different survival strategies. They developed sophisticated understanding of how to adjust their energy patterns to match these changing conditions, conserving resources when necessary and maximizing activity when conditions were favorable. During the long, dark winters of Ice Age Europe, your ancestors naturally entered periods of reduced activity that conserved both physical energy and community resources. This wasn't laziness or depression, but intelligent adaptation to environmental conditions that made high-energy activities less productive and potentially dangerous. Feel this inherited seasonal wisdom in your own energy patterns. If you naturally feel less energetic during winter months, if you prefer quieter activities and more rest during darker seasons, if you experience natural energy conservation during cold periods, you're expressing genetic programming that helped your ancestors survive challenging seasonal conditions. Your ancestors understood that winter energy conservation needed to balance adequate rest with enough activity to maintain physical fitness and community connections. They developed indoor activities that provided satisfaction and social engagement while respecting the natural tendency toward reduced energy expenditure. During harsh weather periods, notice your own preferences for winter activities and energy management. If you naturally prefer indoor contemplative activities during cold months, if you find satisfaction in quiet projects that can be completed in warm, secure environments, if you naturally seek comfort and coziness during winter periods, you're following ancient patterns of seasonal energy adaptation. The spring awakening of your Neanderthal ancestors was a gradual process that matched the slow increase in daylight and warming temperatures, allowing their bodies to naturally emerge from winter conservation mode without the shock of sudden energy demands. They understood that sustainable energy increases require time and patience. Feel this natural spring awakening in your own seasonal rhythms. If you experience gradual energy increases as days grow longer, if you find yourself naturally motivated to begin new projects and activities as weather improves, if spring feels like a natural time for renewal and increased activity, you're expressing inherited responses to seasonal change. Your ancestors developed sophisticated understanding of daily energy cycles that matched their activity patterns to natural circadian rhythms and environmental conditions. They reserved high-energy activities for optimal times while scheduling rest and low-energy tasks during natural down periods. Consider your own daily energy patterns and natural activity preferences. If you have consistent times of day when you feel most energetic and alert, if you naturally prefer certain types of activities during specific portions of your daily cycle, if you can sense your body's natural rhythm of energy peaks and valleys, you're expressing inherited chronobiological patterns. The summer energy patterns of your ancestors involved maximum activity during the most favorable conditions, taking advantage of long daylight hours, abundant resources, and optimal weather to accomplish energy-intensive survival tasks. They understood that summer's abundance needed to be fully utilized to prepare for winter's challenges. Notice your own responses to summer conditions and increased daylight. If you naturally feel more energetic during longer days, if you prefer more social activity and outdoor pursuits during warm seasons, if summer feels like a natural time for ambitious projects and high-energy activities, you're following ancient patterns of seasonal energy optimization. Your Neanderthal ancestors understood that energy management requires balance between individual needs and community demands, finding ways to coordinate their personal energy cycles with group activities and shared responsibilities. They developed flexible systems that honored individual rhythms while maintaining community function. Feel this inherited understanding of balanced energy management. If you naturally seek harmony between your personal energy needs and your responsibilities to others, if you prefer collaborative approaches that consider everyone's natural rhythms and capabilities, if you can sense when group energy is high or low and adjust activities accordingly, you're expressing ancient social energy wisdom. The food and energy relationship understood by your ancestors involved eating patterns that supported their natural energy cycles rather than fighting against them. They consumed different types of foods during different seasons and activity periods, understanding how various nutrients affected their energy levels and performance capabilities. Consider your own natural eating preferences and their relationship to your energy patterns. If you naturally crave different foods during different seasons, if your appetite and meal preferences change based on your activity levels and energy demands, if you can sense how different foods affect your energy and performance, you're expressing inherited nutritional wisdom. Your ancestors developed sophisticated understanding of rest and recovery cycles that allowed them to maintain high performance during demanding periods while ensuring adequate restoration to prevent exhaustion and maintain long-term capability. They knew when to push through challenges and when rest was essential for optimal function. Notice your own natural patterns of activity and recovery. If you can sense when your body needs extra rest, even when external demands suggest continued activity, if you naturally alternate periods of intense effort with periods of restoration, if you understand that sustainable performance requires regular renewal, you're following ancient energy management principles. The emotional energy patterns of your Neanderthal ancestors were closely tied to seasonal and daily cycles, understanding that different times naturally support different types of emotional experiences and social interactions. They didn't expect constant emotional states but worked with natural variations in mood and social energy. Feel this inherited emotional rhythm awareness. If your emotional energy and social preferences change with seasons and daily cycles, if you naturally experience different moods and social needs during different parts of your natural rhythms, if you accept emotional variations as natural rather than problems to be fixed, you're expressing ancient emotional intelligence. Your ancestors understood that sustainable energy management requires attention to long-term patterns rather than just immediate demands, planning their energy expenditure across seasons and years to maintain capability for ongoing survival challenges. They thought strategically about energy investment and conservation. Let this understanding of your inherited energy wisdom settle into your consciousness, recognizing that your natural energy patterns connect you to tested biological rhythms that sustained successful communities across vast periods of environmental challenge and change. Settle into the warm knowledge that you belong to an ancient lineage stretching back through time, understanding how your Neanderthal inheritance connects you not only to your genetic ancestors, but also to modern people who share similar ancient DNA patterns, and the traits that come with this remarkable genetic heritage. Allow yourself to sink deeper into comfort as we explore the invisible bonds that connect people who share significant Neanderthal inheritance, recognizing that the traits and preferences we've been exploring often draw similar individuals together through instinctive recognition of shared genetic programming and compatible approaches to life's challenges. Picture the moment when you meet someone new and immediately feel a sense of recognition, as if you've known them much longer than the brief time you've actually spent together. This instant connection often reflects shared genetic heritage that expresses itself through similar personality traits, problem-solving approaches, and life preferences that create natural compatibility and understanding. Your Neanderthal ancestors lived in closely bonded communities where genetic similarity contributed to natural cooperation, shared values, and intuitive understanding between group members. This genetic familiarity created communities that could function effectively under stress because members naturally understood each other's needs, capabilities, and responses to various challenges. Feel this inherited tendency toward genetic tribe recognition in your own social experiences. If you naturally gravitate toward people who share your methodical thinking style, your preference for deep rather than superficial relationships, your appreciation for craftsmanship and attention to detail, you may be unconsciously seeking others who share similar ancient genetic programming. The people with whom you feel most comfortable and understood often share not only your Neanderthal inheritance, but the specific combination of traits that this inheritance creates when expressed in modern life. These individuals likely share your preference for small, loyal social groups, your methodical approach to problem solving, and your natural inclination toward cooperation rather than aggressive competition. Consider the friends and family members with whom you feel most naturally compatible. Notice whether they tend to share certain characteristics: preference for thorough planning over impulsive action, strong loyalty to people they care about, natural skill with hands-on activities, comfort with solitude and quiet environments, and genuine concern for the well-being of others. Your genetic tribe members often demonstrate similar responses to stress, challenge, and environmental conditions. They may share your preference for cooler temperatures, your ability to remain calm during emergencies, your natural tendency to help others during difficult times, and your appreciation for activities that combine practical function with aesthetic beauty. Feel the recognition that occurs when you encounter others who share these inherited traits and preferences. There's often an immediate sense of understanding, as if explanations and justifications that are necessary with other people become unnecessary because of shared instinctive approaches to life's various challenges and opportunities. The social preferences characteristic of Neanderthal inheritance often draw similar individuals together into friendship groups and communities that naturally function according to ancient social patterns. These groups tend to be smaller and more intensely connected than typical modern social networks, with members who demonstrate genuine loyalty and mutual support. Notice whether your closest relationships tend to follow patterns of deep loyalty, mutual assistance during challenges, shared appreciation for craftsmanship and quality, and preference for cooperation over competition. These relationship characteristics often indicate that you've found others who share similar genetic programming for ancient social patterns. Your genetic tribe members may share your intuitive abilities and environmental sensitivities, creating bonds based on shared awareness of subtle patterns and natural cycles that less genetically similar individuals might not notice or appreciate. These shared sensitivities often create deep understanding and communication that requires few words. Consider whether the people with whom you feel most connected tend to share certain environmental preferences and sensitivities: comfort in natural settings, awareness of weather and seasonal changes, appreciation for traditional crafts and methods, and instinctive understanding of natural materials and their properties. The problem-solving approaches characteristic of Neanderthal inheritance often create natural compatibility between individuals who share this genetic heritage. These people tend to approach challenges with similar patience, thoroughness, and long-term thinking that creates effective collaboration and mutual understanding during difficult situations. Feel the satisfaction that comes from working alongside others who share your methodical approach to complex problems, your preference for sustainable solutions over quick fixes, and your natural inclination to consider all variables before taking action. These shared cognitive patterns often create highly effective working relationships and deep friendships. Your genetic tribe members likely share your appreciation for authenticity, quality and depth in various life experiences. They may prefer handmade objects to mass-produced items, value expertise and craftsmanship over convenience and speed, and seek meaning and substance in their activities rather than superficial entertainment or distraction. Notice whether the people who understand you best tend to share these values and preferences, creating natural bonds based on similar approaches to what makes life meaningful and satisfying. These shared values often reflect genetic programming that influences what feels important and worthwhile to individuals with significant Neanderthal inheritance. The modern expression of ancient tribal bonds often occurs through shared interests and activities that appeal specifically to people with Neanderthal genetic programming. These might include traditional crafts, outdoor activities, collaborative problem-solving pursuits, and activities that combine physical skill with mental engagement. Consider the activities and interests that bring you the most satisfaction and notice whether they tend to attract others who share your temperament and approach to life. These natural gathering points often serve as modern equivalents of ancient tribal meeting places, bringing together people with compatible genetic programming. Your genetic tribe recognition abilities may operate below conscious awareness, guiding you toward individuals whose company feels naturally comfortable and away from those whose different genetic programming creates personality conflicts or misunderstandings that seem difficult to resolve despite good intentions from all parties. Feel this inherited social intelligence that helps you identify people with whom you can build meaningful, lasting relationships based on natural compatibility rather than forced social connections. This ability to recognize genetic compatibility has served human communities throughout history by creating stable, effective social groups. The sense of belonging that comes from finding your genetic tribe provides psychological security and social satisfaction that enhances your overall well-being and effectiveness. When you're surrounded by others who naturally understand your approaches and preferences, you can focus energy on productive activities rather than spending effort trying to explain or justify your natural responses. Let this understanding of tribal recognition settle into your consciousness, helping you appreciate the deep connections you've already formed with compatible individuals and guiding you toward others who share your ancient genetic heritage and the wonderful traits that come with this remarkable inheritance. As you sink deeper into rest, feel gratitude for the genetic wisdom that connects you to both ancient ancestors and modern tribe members who share your unique combination of traits, preferences, and capabilities. Allow yourself to sink into the profound peace that comes from understanding your complete genetic story and your place in the great human adventure, feeling the full weight and wonder of your ancient inheritance settling into your consciousness like gentle starlight. Your breathing naturally slows to its deepest, most restful rhythm as we integrate everything we've discovered about your remarkable genetic heritage. Let your body find its most comfortable position as you prepare to receive the complete picture of who you are, where you came from, and what you carry forward from hundreds of thousands of years of human evolution. You are not just a modern human living in today's world, but the living embodiment of one of evolution's greatest success stories, the magnificent result of genetic mixing between multiple human species. Picture yourself standing at the center of a vast family tree that stretches back through countless generations, its branches reaching into the mists of ancient time. Every person in that enormous genealogical network successfully survived long enough to reproduce, passing their hard-won genetic wisdom forward through an unbroken chain of survival, adaptation, and success that culminates in the unique individual you are today. Your Neanderthal inheritance represents far more than simple percentages or genetic statistics. You carry within your DNA the accumulated survival wisdom of a human species that thrived for hundreds of thousands of years in some of the most challenging environments Earth has ever offered to human populations. Every Neanderthal gene you possess was tested across countless generations and proved its worth through practical application in real survival situations. Feel the strength of this inheritance flowing through your body as you rest here. You are not the product of random genetic lottery or fortunate accident, but the carefully selected result of the most rigorous testing process evolution has ever conducted. Your unique combination of traits, preferences, and capabilities represent solutions to survival challenges that were proven effective across vast periods of time. Based on your ancestry and the traits we've explored together throughout this journey, your personal Neanderthal inheritance likely falls within the range that characterizes your ancestral populations. If you're of European descent, you probably carry between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA, with your specific percentage determined by the particular regions your ancestors called home, and the migration routes they followed across continents and millennia. If your heritage includes Eastern European, Scandinavian or certain Mediterranean populations, your Neanderthal percentage may reach toward the higher end of this range, possibly approaching or exceeding 4% of your total genetic inheritance. If your ancestry includes East Asian populations, your ancient DNA percentage might be even higher, reflecting the complex mixing events that occurred across Central and Eastern Asia tens of thousands of years ago. But remember that your Neanderthal inheritance isn't just about percentage numbers. What matters most is understanding how this ancient genetic wisdom expresses itself in your daily life, influencing your physical capabilities, cognitive patterns, social preferences, and approach to life's various challenges and opportunities. The physical traits we've explored together create a portrait of inherited advantages that continue to serve you well in the modern world. Your robust build, your cold tolerance, your healing abilities, your manual dexterity, your sensory capabilities all reflect genetic gifts that were refined across hundreds of thousands of years of successful adaptation to demanding environments. Your cognitive inheritance includes the methodical thinking patterns, spatial reasoning abilities, pattern recognition skills, and problem-solving approaches that enabled your ancestors to create sophisticated tools, navigate complex landscapes, and develop survival strategies that sustained communities across vast periods of environmental challenge and change. The social programming you've inherited influences your preference for deep, loyal relationships over superficial social networks, your instinctive desire to help others during difficult times, your natural inclination toward cooperation rather than aggressive competition, and your understanding that community strength depends on caring for all members, including the most vulnerable. Your emotional and intuitive capabilities connect you to ancient wisdom systems that operated through sophisticated integration of environmental awareness, social sensitivity, and pattern recognition that enabled successful decision-making under conditions of uncertainty and stress. Feel all of these inherited gifts working together as an integrated system designed for successful living. You don't possess random individual traits, but a carefully coordinated collection of genetic tools that complement and enhance each other, creating capabilities that exceed what any single advantage could provide alone. Your artistic and creative inheritance connects you to the first human artists and craftspeople, people who understood that beauty, meaning, and creative expression are essential for psychological well-being and community cohesion, even under the most challenging survival conditions. The stress management and emotional regulation systems you've inherited include sophisticated approaches to handling difficulty, uncertainty, and challenge that were developed during the ultimate testing ground of Ice Age survival. Your natural coping mechanisms and resilience patterns reflect genetic programming that sustained communities through their greatest challenges. Your sleep wisdom, energy cycles, and natural rhythms connect you to biological patterns that were carefully attuned to natural environments and seasonal changes across hundreds of thousands of years. These inherited patterns continue to promote optimal health and well-being when honored and followed in your modern life. As you rest here in profound comfort, feel yourself connected not only to your ancient ancestors, but also to the modern individuals around the world who share similar genetic heritage and express comparable traits and preferences. You belong to a global community of people whose DNA carries the same ancient wisdom, creating invisible bonds of understanding and compatibility. The distribution of Neanderthal DNA across modern populations means that millions of people worldwide share aspects of your genetic inheritance, creating a vast extended family connected by ancient mixing events that occurred during humanity's most challenging and formative periods. You are part of this remarkable genetic legacy that spans continents and cultures. Your complete genetic story represents the successful outcome of the greatest experiment in human evolution, the mixing of different human species that created hybrid vigor, exceeding the capabilities of any single ancestral population. You carry the combined advantages of multiple human lineages, each contributing their specialized adaptations and survival strategies to create the remarkable individual you are today. This isn't just personal genetic information, but of the larger human story of adaptation, survival, and success across vast periods of environmental change and challenge. Your Neanderthal inheritance makes you a living link to humanity's ancient past and a carrier of genetic wisdom that continues to benefit our species. Feel the profound responsibility and honor that comes with this inheritance. You carry forward genetic gifts that were earned through hundreds of thousands of years of successful survival, tested through the ultimate challenges of Ice Age adaptation, and preserved through countless generations of ancestors who used these exact capabilities to thrive and raise successful children. Your daily life benefits from traits and abilities that represent some of the most successful survival strategies evolution has ever produced. Your problem-solving approaches, your social instincts, your physical capabilities, your emotional responses, all carry the influence of genetic patterns that were proven effective under conditions far more demanding than anything you're likely to face. Understanding your Neanderthal inheritance provides you with confidence in your natural responses and trust in your instinctive approaches to life's various challenges. Your unique traits and preferences aren't personal quirks or individual variations, but expressions of ancient wisdom that has been refined through practical application across vast periods of time. As you prepare to drift into peaceful sleep, let yourself feel surrounded by the protective presence of all your ancestors, Neanderthal, modern human, and others, all contributing their unique gifts to your success and well-being. Their combined wisdom flows through your genetic inheritance, providing you with inner resources for facing whatever challenges life may present. Visualize yourself at the center of a gentle, glowing network that connects you to countless ancestors stretching back through time, their successful survival strategies encoded in every cell of your body, their accumulated wisdom available to guide and support you in your modern life. Feel the deep peace that comes from understanding your place in the great human story, knowing that you are not alone but connected to an unbroken chain of successful survivors whose genetic gifts continue to serve you well in your daily life and ongoing challenges. Let your dreams tonight be filled with ancient wisdom, genetic memories, and the deep satisfaction that comes from understanding your true heritage. You are not just an individual navigating the modern world alone, but the living embodiment of hundreds of thousands of years of tested survival strategies, proven adaptive capabilities, and refined human wisdom. As your breathing slows to its most peaceful rhythm and your body settles into complete rest, carry with you the knowledge that you are remarkable, that you are connected to something vast and enduring, and that you possess genetic gifts that have been tested and proven across the ultimate challenges of human survival and adaptation. You are a miracle of evolution, a successful hybrid of the most accomplished human species that ever lived. carrying forward their combined wisdom and strength into whatever adventures and challenges await you in your modern life. Rest now in the profound peace that comes from understanding who you really are and where you truly belong in the magnificent story of human survival and success. Sleep peacefully, knowing that you are protected by ancient wisdom, guided by tested strategies, and connected to a genetic legacy that spans continents and millennia. Your Neanderthal ancestors watch over your rest, their genetic gifts flowing through your dreams, preparing you for whatever tomorrow may bring with confidence, capability, and the deep strength that comes from understanding your remarkable genetic inheritance. Sweet dreams, you magnificent hybrid of ancient wisdom and modern possibility. Sleep well, knowing that you carry within yourself the very best that human evolution has produced, tested across hundreds of thousands of years and proven through the ultimate challenges of survival, adaptation, and success.